Holy mackerel.
Good morning, good afternoon, good night, wherever you are in the world.
It's episode 85 of the worst podcast on the internet.
Woo!
Guaranteed to have kids, pets,
Boobs,
weird boobs.
sex
The
jokes,
only place you can get all 4, 6.
a hot mess somewhere. ADD tangents, spectrum awkwardness. What else do we got for you guys? Spreadsheets,
Trigger warnings.
trigger warnings.
And triggeredness. Me. That's mostly me. Okay. Not safe for work podcast, potty language, adult themes, adult content, titties. If you're not interested in any of that, leave. If you are, you're in.
Welcome.
Right? You're in.
You've arrived.
Excellent. Jana, we have a sponsor, vetdna.com, for all of your disease testing needs.
Where's my banner? I can't.
I'm trying to go fast because we have a guest, so I won't bring it up.
Oh.
Shit happens.
DNA. Shit happens. Don't send the shit. Swab the shit.
And who are other sponsors? Real quick, we'll do like longer sponsor spots on Saturday. Jana?
Yeah, we have Shane Kelley, Small Town. This is weird. Small Town Exotics. We have Stoneage Ball Pythons, BNS Reptilia, Bravo Zulu, Gray Family Snakes, and Powerhouse Pythons. Thank you all for sponsoring the podcast, and we will do a longer shout out on Saturday, like she said.
Mm-hmm. We have more time to fuck around because it's an all-night party over there.
It's an all-night party. Bring your beers. Also, if you don't know what we're talking about, we are doing another live auction on Saturday. It will be, I think, all ball pythons, actually.
No,
BNS will have fun goodies. BNS is bringing the variety, and the rest of us will probably have ball pythons. But show up, even if you aren't planning to spend money. It's a lot of fun to hang out. If you plan to spend money, make sure you talk to your wife or your girlfriend or your husband or whoever controls the checkbook, so you have permission to bid. It's a lot of fun. We'll be doing them about once a month.
Yeah, and we'll probably try to be giving away Holdback Rack t-shirts too for free. Yes. So even if you're not bidding, it'll give you a reason to stick around. Thank you, everybody. And now for our most beautifulest guest of all time. Hi.
Welcome.
Whoa, you got a snake on.
I did.
Well, what kind of snake is that?
This is a Solomon Island ground boa. This is actually Cookie, who is one of my nicest adult males.
That's an adult male boa?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. He is probably one of my more popular animals.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, he's very.
Is that Isabel Island or not, or just a white face?
This is just a white phase candoia. I don't like the terminology for Isabel Island because without paperwork, you really can't prove what islands they came from. And the high white candoia come from all the islands. So there's a misconception that they only come from Isabel Island, and it's not true.
All right, well, let's get into it.
Knowledge nuggets. I am ready to learn because I know nothing about any of what you're probably going to teach us. So I'm excited.
These are definitely what I would consider, like, I guess, my specialty animal.
So do you breed? Let's go through like the 60-second elevator pitch. Like, what species do you keep? I know there's a lot, but you could like jumble them together, like candoia.
For you overall, not for the species specifically.
So for candoia, I have viper boas and Solomon Island ground boas. I used to have Australis and Carinata, but I don't really. I didn't enjoy work. I don't hate them, but I didn't enjoy working with them. So I like the comment I just saw, but yeah, so mainly right now I just have like the Pulsoni, the Tasmi, which are the smaller species, and then I have the viper boas for these. But I'm also breeding and keeping Woma pythons. They're supposed to be hatching today, so hopefully we'll see that later. A lot of sand boa species, so I have 4 or 5 different species now that I keep and breed. And then I have emerald tree boas, which I'm hoping for a litter this year. We will see if it comes to fruition. And then I have some other like little colubrids. I have Asclepians and some corn snakes and stuff. But my main focus is definitely like these guys and the sand boas.
For colubrids, what's that in layman's terms?
So like what kind I have?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have so I have corn snakes, I have the Aesculapians, which is like the Italian snakes. Mine is a German line, which they're kind of smaller, but then I have Cape bull snakes. Oh, and I have Oxyropus fitzgerald, which are Peruvian calico snakes. I don't know if you're familiar with those at all, but
they're pretty cool. Were they CB
cool.
or were they?
They're captive born and bred, yeah.
Okay.
So cool. those are produced by Stan Grumbeck. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Sorry. We'll have pictures also because I have your Instagram up because a lot of these are.
Oh no, okay.
No, it's a good thing. I promise.
Are like weird.
People I'm a very visual person, so you're going to say all these scientific names, and I'm going to go, huh? And Jessica's going to be like, Jana, here's a picture. There you go.
That's okay. We're all on a journey.
We're all on a journey. I'm just at the very beginning of my journey.
Okay. First question. So, do you like or prefer Pulsonii or Tasmai more?
That's a great question. So they both have very distinct attributes that I think get kind of confused. They're already very difficult to determine.
All right, let's just do it. You're gonna get put on blast. Sorry.
Uh-oh.
All right, talk about this picture.
Yeah, for sure. So Tasmai are smaller subspecies of Pulsonii, and they are actually collected in a completely different island area than the Pulsonii are, but they get imported all as Pulsonii because they're not adding on the subspecies name. So when they come in and they get unboxed and they sent to resellers, the resellers all just call them Solomon Island ground boas, and they get missold as the wrong species so often that I have actually started to see people crossbreeding them on accident, being like, "Oh, look at my Pulsonii pair," and it's like, "Oh no," you know.
Those are two different things.
They're two different things, and my bone about it is like they're so new as captive born and bred in the hobby and being established and being taken seriously that like unintentional crossbreeding like that makes problems. You know, you're not keeping the bloodlines pure. These are two entirely different subspecies. They act very different. They have different patterning. They get to different sizes. Like a full-grown Pulsonii female can get up to 4 feet and eat like medium-sized rats. A full-grown Tasmai gets up to like 30 inches is a decent size, 30 to 36 inches maybe. And they're eating like adult mice. So it's the size difference is very, it's very different. And then Tasmais are more defensive overall. And they tend to do like the ball python thing where they curl up like that. You can actually see in the picture, one of them's doing it there.
So is the one you have in your hand a Tasmai?
Nope, this is a Pulsonii male.
Okay.
And it's misleading.
I could get it wrong really easily.
It's super hard to tell how long they are and stuff too, just because, you know, all of that stuff is kind of misleading. But I think like he will get a little bit bigger, but he's breeding age and he's produced several litters already at this size. But he will probably have like another inches, you know, that he will add on to his life. But yeah, they have Pulsonii overall are bigger. They are less inclined to be scared. So they don't do as much of that, like hiding their head and shying away. And they have, to me, when I look at them now, I don't know how to say this without sounding like snooty about it, because I'm really not, but I have a trained eye where I can see like, this is a Tasmai, this is a Pulsonii. But there are some instances where like their characteristics will overlap. And especially when you have like a younger one, it is harder to tell what you're talking about. I've had so many messages like, what is this? And every once in a while I'll see one that's like, oh, that's tough, you know, because they don't naturally integrate. They're not close enough to each other to do that, but there are definitely very similar characteristics there too.
But you're saying that you're concerned we're going to see a lot of integrates in the captive bred community because people aren't aware of the differences. So I've can you tell and integrate from the other two, or is that the one that falls in the tough category?
Yes. So I have a friend who put a pair together, and I'm like 98% sure that it was an unintentional pairing between Tasmai and Pulsonii, just based on the pictures I saw. And the babies are so strange patterning wise and everything that they don't look like either. So I think that you're going to start to see a lot of that where it's not really clear what you're looking at. and hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully you don't start seeing a lot of that. But I have at least noticed people like posting pictures of like, look at my breeding animals. And you're like, no. Some people don't want to listen to you if you reach out and say, hey, double check or whatever. And I've definitely been told to like mind my own business and everything later.
Do they have scalation differences that you could, even if like the head and body size was intermediate, you could do scale counts to split them?
So the problem with scale counting with these guys, and I've done, so when I initially got into them, I did a very, very deep dive into scientific papers and downloading documents. And there is a scale counting paper that I have, in the overlap is so, it makes this huge gray area of, it could go either way. Mm-hmm. So unfortunately, between those two, it's not like a for sure method. Like I tried to use that a couple of years ago to be like, for sure, this is this and this is that. And the overlap is just so much that like, I wouldn't be comfortable saying because it's got this many scales. Like, so I guess no is the short answer to that.
Bummer.
yeah. And really, so like sometimes if you get those weird ones that are sort of in between, you don't know until like they're full grown and you kind of see where they max out.
So it's like adult size, boofiness of the cheeks, and like head neck transition. Yeah,
like,
but not really color or.
Yeah, it's well
the stripes sort of.
The patterning is for sure. Like on the Tasmais, a lot of them have this. I'm pointing at my screen, like you can see where I'm pointing.
I can point.
A lot of them have that like faded between pattern where you can see like the really dark triangles and then the faded and then the dark. So there's like
okay, so like it's like a.
That's a very common Tasmai characteristic, and that
like the
very
teeth, almost.
Yeah. And you see a lot of like, I don't know if you can see on this too, but there's a lot of blushing between the points. That is really
like on the dorsum.
Yeah. Right on the, you can see like especially like that high white one on the left side that's got like the brown blushing almost. Mm-hmm. That's very typical of Tasmai. I don't think I've ever seen a Pulsoni with like that type of patterning before. It would be very unusual. And that's one of those animals that would be like, so a lot of it is, and I tell people too, it's, if you put a couple things together, like 2 or 3 that you can check off of one side, that'll help you kind of determine too. So if it's got this kind of patterning, this coloration, and a fat head, it's probably Tasmai. But like I said, it's not 100%.
So you're saying everybody should message you all the time?
Yes,
I was just thinking that. Is that okay?
Yeah,
so
sure.
What she's saying is that if this is a species that's going to be interesting to you to get into, that you really need to educate yourself.
Yes.
So that you aren't creating integrates.
Yeah.
And if you have questions, they're allowed to reach out to you. You want to shout out your Instagram?
Oh yeah, Stygian Exotics is my Instagram. Please feel free to message me. I'm on Facebook too, with the same name.
Yeah, and if you're buying captive bred, ask for pictures of the parents so that you can see if they're
especially if it's and I see this all the time. Like I'm not gonna call out any names, but I see all the time like captive born babies that are just dumped from imported females, and then they sell them as like captive born, blah blah blah, and like technically they're captive born, but it's really not the same thing at all, right? Yeah, see, I see, and it's misleading, and they don't know what they have either. I've definitely had situations where it's like, no, you're not. That's not what this is. This is actually Tasmai or whatever. But there are some sites and some companies that are very guilty of doing this, of miss
Outback.
Allegedly.
Underground is one of the
one of
the ones I have.
But they obviously know which exporting country it came from, so they could label it correctly if they wanted to.
They don't care. That's like I've talked
so
about.
Frustrating.
Yeah, I've talked about like I don't know if you're familiar with Dan Mallory, DM Exotics.
Yeah.
But so I've even talked to him, and he's like, the way they import and the way they label them when they come in, and they don't really care. Like they unbox them and they go, oh sure, it's Pulsoni, whatever, and they sell it, and it's not their problem. It's unfortunately down to like hobbyists and people that really care about them to be like, this is wrong, this is incorrect, please don't crossbreed these. I've had conversations with different companies before where like, if you want clarification, I'm happy to help you, and like here are things to look out for. So I've actually I have like text chains with a couple different companies who will ask me like, what do I have here? We got this on an import box. But then some of them like will continue to do the wrong thing and continue to mislead them and mislabel them. One of the worst offenders is you see high white Tasmais being sold as Isabel Island ground boas, because that's the hot word right now, Isabel Island. It is a pet peeve of mine seeing that on ads, seeing it advertised, because there is no proof. There's really no way to know that anything came from Isabel Island. And Isabel Island has become basically used
Just synonymous with white.
With white, yeah, okay. Yeah. And it's infuriating because it's just not the case. You can literally go onto iNaturalist.com and look at the island chains where they have reported findings and see high white animals on different islands. Mm-hmm. So
they're almost naming high white Isabel instead of saying the location, which they shouldn't do.
It's weird. It's
well, it's like the same thing that happened in corn snakes, where like the phenotype Ocatee becomes the name of the morph, but it doesn't actually there's two things now, an Ocatee locality and an Ocatee morph. So that could happen, but we would have to be clear that there's like a hobby Isabel Island and a real Isabel Island.
The problem, and I see a lot of people claiming that they are Isabel locality. That's the issue still right now.
Yeah.
Right. We should call them Isabel Fates because it sounds cute, right? I don't know.
Yeah, for sure.
So like when I list mine or talk about mine, I just call them high whites. I don't have any.
That's like, fair.
Right. And it's funny too, because Isabel Island also has gray phase and, silver and brown and all the different colorations are also on that island.
Okay. Would we get sued if we went through Morph Market right now and did a Pulse and Tasmai check?
Let's do it.
No.
Who it is, or
I'll get a bunch of angry messages later.
Right. I want to, though. I'm tempted because there's a bunch out there that are nice, and most of them have boofy heads and are fuzzy. So I'm like, they're probably Tasmai, but like,
there's definitely a couple. There's a couple out of Florida that do it a lot.
She'll get lots of messages. All right,
let's hate messages. Send the hate messages to me.
Yeah.
I had Pulse and I, like two, captive born from wild caught babies when I was 14 or something. They died, obviously. Because they never ate on their own and I was force feeding them like guppies or something stupid. So I always liked them, but never got back into them because they obviously have problems. They need a system to be started. So what's your system for starting baby candoia?
Okay, so this is a hot topic.
Shit. Buckle in.
This is like the number one reason I've received angry messages from like 60-year-old white dudes.
Okay. Fair.
So
we call those the dude bros.
Yes, yeah. There is a misconception that persists about this species that they only eat frogs and lizards. It's not true. I've made it my life's goal to break that myth down. But they will take less than day old pinkies right from birth, like 7 days after birth. They shed that first hour after being born. Within 24 hours, they should all have their first sheds done. And then I offer 7 to 10 days later, fresh, like hour-old pinkies.
I have had or live.
Live. Okay. I'll do frozen thawed first just to see if anybody's game, because I will get takers sometimes where they're like, oh yeah, sure, whatever. So to back myself up a little bit, a lot of setting up babies it comes down to husbandry. And I don't say it's so hard to explain to people that your husbandry's not bad. It's just incorrect for this species. And so a lot of the questions I get are, my baby won't eat, why? And I have to break it down to these are prey animals. When they are born, their parents will crap out up to 120 babies, I think is the highest reported number at a time.
They're going the volume game.
It's crazy, right?
That is insane.
The younger females usually only give 30 to 40 babies at a time, which is a lot still, right? For a boa,
how many
especially.
of those are viable?
Most, all of them, yeah.
Whoa.
They're just real little, so they're just machine gunning children across the landscape.
Yeah.
Hopefully one of them makes it to maturity.
That's exactly it, right? And so they end up being prey animals for a lot of the other animals on the islands. So these are very scared, skittish babies right from birth. They have to be kept in the dark, basically, in tiny little containers. I use leftover food containers that are like, itty bitty, or I'll use like pencil tubs. I don't know if you're familiar with those, but like the really long, skinny ones.
Like the I-70 from Reptile Basics.
Yeah, I think that's what that is. The little, the
70s or 80s or whatever, the little ones.
Yeah, the I-80s. That's what you're thinking.
And then the 110s are the doubles.
Yeah, like this has got bedding in it, but this is what I put my baby plus when I live in these. And this is very small, but it's like for them, this is a mansion. This is huge, even.
And so, will they do okay in a clear, or do you have to put them in a gray to get them established?
I have started them in clear as well. But you have to give them hides. Okay. So even in the dark, like I've done takeaway containers that are like all black, and then I have them inside basically like an incubator style setup where, you have the door that closes and it's just an ambient 84 degrees. Excuse me. And they do really great in that as well. I switched them to doing tubs because when you're popping open those containers, you traumatize them like every time. And so then it turns them off me.
Also like if they're little bitty, like they could like jump out or that you could get their tail or like
it's really
I
easy.
had like 50 corn snakes in the pop ones and it's just not worth
it's miserable.
But so it's also like it's really slows down your cleaning process as well because you have to be extremely delicate and careful with each one. So you're like pausing and doing each one individually rather than you could just like rapid go with the tubs.
Right. You can get into them much more. And when you have, like last season, I had like 80 babies, I think at one time.
How do you plan? I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you, but how do you plan your breedings if you don't know if you're going to get 30 or 120?
You just
because if you do two and they each have like 100 babies each, that's screwed. So many.
Yeah. It's so many babies. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 gravid pulsoni right now. And 2 gravid Tasmai.
Do you recommend culling down the number, or do you?
That's a great question.
I know you don't have to answer if it makes you uncomfortable. I'm just curious if you keep the healthiest, best eaters, and the rest are culled for like snake eating food or snake eaters or something like that. Because if you get 200,
it's a lot.
It's a lot.
So my opinion of this, and this might make people squeamish, is that culling some is a good option. You are going to get some babies that just don't want to eat. They're runty, they're small. Some of them come out there. I have had ones come out malformed. That's really rare, but like those ones I definitely cull. But when I'm doing my feeding trials, basically anyone that gets to the point where like they won't even accept an anole, like you need to be culled. Like there's
that's
a
awesome
certain point
because you're not reproducing that non-eater.
That unwillingness to eat. Correct. Yeah, exactly.
So I'm pro culling in appropriate situations. Okay. I think that our hobby should do more of it.
I agree with you.
To make sure that we're only
before they're old and
right. No, I mean like in the first month or whatever.
Or maybe even when they're old too. I don't fucking know. But like
I just think that if we're gonna have a really healthy captive bred population, that we have to be a little cutthroat about it. Like who gets to make it and who doesn't. So like the ones that are force fed for months, you definitely don't want to breed that animal. Like or that animal should be humanely euthanized.
Yeah, I have there's a lot of discussion kind of rising in the candoia community about those kind of things because there are some captive born breeders that choose to just force feed from day one without even offering them the opportunity to eat on their own. And I don't understand that.
I don't understand or agree with that.
Oh, right. I don't agree with it either, really.
Especially if they're a skittish snake. How are they supposed to ever calm down or trust or anything?
It's very stressful. It's so easy to kill them. They're so tiny. And until you have one in your hands, it's really easy to underestimate just how small and delicate they are. I can't tell you. Huh?
thing. It's like a pencil.
Like thinner than a pencil. Thinner than a pencil.
Yeah, like,
yeah. Like just.
How do you even how would you even assist feed that?
I know it's
Very
so hard.
quickly.
Ball pythons are not tiny, and they're
And they're
still
so hard.
pretty nerve-wracking to assist feed.
Right. But yeah, there are some people that just do the tube feeding and like, do it how you want to. It's just, but that's not what I'm about. That's not what I'm here to do. So this year is going to be interesting because I am going to be practicing a heavier culling. So I will be heavier about this one really doesn't want to eat. You got to go. Like,
I feel like that's more ethical in my opinion. Obviously, guys, this is just an opinion. You can make your own opinions, but I think that's more ethical than tube feeding everybody. So if you are looking to get into this species and you want something that's strong and going to produce babies that eat, maybe ask them how they're feeding their babies, because for me that would be a deal breaker if they were assist fed from birth.
You can go on Morph Market right now and find ads that tell you that these have been assist fed or force fed since birth and they just recently switched or whatever. Like I wouldn't want that in my breeding program. No,
at
like
all.
You can do it right. Like as a pet, sure, that's fine. And I'm not trying to shade anybody, but like as a very serious captive breeding program, I'm not trying to do that in my program. Like
you want the healthiest and the strongest and the best that are going to eat in a captive situation.
Yes. Yeah. And and then those are the ones I want to hold back and grow up and
exactly. I totally
continue
agree.
forward. Yeah.
And maybe that's why candoia never really took off. They have all the properties of like a good species, technically small, cool.
Yeah,
looking,
no, I'm very
fat,
interested in colorful, and they're beautiful. Colors. Yes,
they are beautiful. Like he's just
nobody ever culled the shit out of them.
Yes.
Right. To like get them to be good starters.
Yeah.
Whatever.
One of the biggest issues that I have run into or heard of or whatever too is that people have a tendency to set them up like a ball python or set them up like a red tail boa or whatever and expect them to do fine. And they just don't do fine like that. And that is where I get people like, well, I tried pinkies and they wouldn't take them, so you're lying. Like I've literally had people tell me that I'm lying about my babies eating pinkies. Which is wild, right? Like I do it yearly now.
Why would you lie?
I don't know. I don't know why I would lie about that, right?
Especially when you're like passionately trying to get this species to be loved by other people and understood like the different genetics and like why would you lie about
I don't know. But I've had people literally on Facebook forums tell me that I'm lying. Which is
that's gaslighting.
It's just, right, exactly. And how do you even respond to that? It's like I don't.
You just don't.
We don't go on Facebook forums anymore.
Yeah.
That place is bad.
It can be rotten. It can be really rough. But like so just going back real quick to my babies, when I start them, they are all individually housed because they are cannibalistic. They will happily eat each other if they're hungry enough. I start them on shredded aspen because these snakes are so dumb that they will wrap a prey item and then lose it in like a soft bedding, like a cocoa bedding or something. So they lose it and then they drop it and leave it and they won't eat. And then it turns them off of eating. They won't try it again.
Right. That was too hard.
It's bizarre. But like if you do shredded aspen, they'll actually use it like a sandbow would and like stick their face out, but it holds more of like a form to it. So when they're wrapping their mouse, they don't lose it and they can actually eat their meal and go on.
Have you tried like paper towel for a little bit while they're getting started?
I don't like using paper towel because they are so susceptible to skin blister disease. Which I don't know if you're familiar with that with these guys either, but when they're young, if they are too wet or humid or they have urinated on the paper towel and then they sit on it, within 24 hours they can develop blisters.
Wow.
And if this animal is not already a good feeder, it's basically a death sentence. So keeping them, so keeping them, and I know it sounds weird because where they come from is a high humidity environment, but you can't mimic that in captivity correctly and then tell them, please don't poop on the bedding that I'm giving you and then sit in it. And you just can't make them not do that, right?
Right, yeah.
So I've just like, I take that option away from them when they're young. So I don't give them like really a humid environment until they're like a year old or more, because those skin blisters are absolutely fatal because the stress of them on their bodies just takes them down. But if it happened to like a 6-month-old maybe that was already eating well, there's a good chance it can pull through. It just
depends on the situation.
Yeah.
Did you try yet with the babies?
Try what?
sand chips, or do they mold to?
They mold so
much?
fast,
Right.
yeah. Because the problem with these guys is they get in their water dish and it overflows, and then the whole thing is full of mold.
So they just use their water dish for the humidity needs.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So I do, shredded aspen. That is what I have found to be the most successful. And I have tried ReptiChip. I've tried just moss. I've tried all kinds of different variations to see just what worked best for it. Once they're older, I switch them onto ReptiChip. ReptiChip just does a good job of holding humidity. The chunks enough that they don't usually accidentally like eat them or get them in their mouths or anything like that. And it doesn't tend to mold like the other stuff does as quickly. So my adults and everything I keep mostly on the ReptiChip, and then I do I do moss in there with them too for humidity. And if their environment is not humid enough, you'll see a lot of soaking, where you'll see you can go online and just scroll pictures and pictures and pictures of them sitting in their water dish, because they do need humidity.
What are your temps like for babies and adults? Like, what's
these guys? 80 to 84 degrees. 84 is like your hot spot, if you want to call it that, but I don't really like to use that language with them because they don't really like the hot spot. They don't really benefit from one in that way. So 80 to 84 degrees is like their ideal situation, especially when they're babies. That takes away the option of them getting to like a lower temperature area where they'll stop eating.
So you run them ambient, no hot spot, or do you have a hot spot?
Or do you do like back heat?
I do belly heat.
Okay.
But I try to keep the whole tank like 80 in the front to 84 to 85 in the back at the most.
Okay, so they have a really narrow gradient that you have to be careful with. Okay, and that's just
when they're babies. Yeah.
Okay.
When they're older,
just giving you the secret sauce, guys.
Yeah, when they're older, they can tolerate more fluctuation. And like my adults have I would say like a low of 75 to a hot spot of like 80 to 86 or something. I'm sorry, 85 to 86. But really up, and then they choose where they hang out, and most of them hang out like right at 80 degrees. Because I've definitely observed like their behavior. The gravid females will utilize 87, 88 degrees almost. So you will actually see them basking on that temperature. But yeah, otherwise they really don't need that high heat, and that actually can kill them. So
especially if they need a high humidity, they can get pretty crispy pretty quick.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
No crispy babies, guys.
No.
And if anybody has any questions, there's 30 people in chat. Thank you for coming. We didn't do shout outs because we're keeping it moving. But if you have specific questions about candoia that we're not covering, we'll be happy to send it along.
Absolutely.
Do you find that the aspen makes them feel more secure than, say, a paper towel, which you don't recommend anyway, but do they feel more secure in that kind of a substrate because they can just poke their head out?
Yeah, like I have had some where like they weren't confident eaters, and then when I had them in the aspen, they will make burrows and stick their face up, and it just makes them feel more like they're hidden and scary, so they'll drag the pinky down underneath the bedding with them and eat it in the dark or whatever.
Okay.
But the paper towel they'll go under it too to use it as a hide, which tells me like they are feeling too exposed.
Right, exactly.
Which is like let me see if I can show you my hides I use.
Yeah, that's good to know because the tiny hides are hard to find.
Yeah. I 3D print these.
Oh, okay.
They're little itty bitty tiny hides, and those go in the back of these tubs. Actually, they fit right in there. Oops.
So do you give them multiple, like one in the front, one in the back?
I do. Yeah, because that way they can pick where they want to hang out. But like.
If you don't have a 3D printer, does it have to be a fully enclosed, or do they like things like PVC pipe or?
Yep. Paper towel tube is really great. I use a lot of paper towel tube, and I cut it like long way. So then you have like a really little short hide for them to go under. And if they poop on it, you can throw it away and get another one. Like it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
They will poop on it. So
make sure you can clean it if you want to keep it around.
Yes, absolutely. So it's either going to be completely disposable or something that cleans really easily because they poop on everything. The babies especially, they will just crap all over the place. Like the whole place is their toilet. So you'll find it smeared along the sides and like.
Okay, so if poop squeaks you out, these are not the species for you.
This is not the species for you. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so let's go back. We didn't quite do it. So you start everybody on a live or frozen thawed pinky. Some percent take it.
Like 1 hour old.
So
No, like the week after they're born or whatever.
Yep.
And then feeding
No, the
trial 2
pinky's
is
like 1 hour old.
okay. Yeah. And then,
yeah.
so next step, washed pinkies or scented?
So what I do
or-
is around that 7 to 10 day old mark, I offer live pinkies to everybody that I have pinkies for. If the ones that refuse, I do it again. I wait another 7 days and I offer pinkies again. A lot of that percentage that didn't take the first time will take them the second time. They just finally digested their yolk or whatever, they're ready to go. And then whatever's left from that, those are the pain in the butt animals that you have to usually use scenting or anoles or whatever. What I tend to do from that point is take like piping hot frozen thawed pinkies and I rub them on like canned mackerel or canned tuna or things like that. Just a very fishy scent, fishy odor will get them interested. And then you just very like in the dark, in the quiet, on tongs, like bring them up to their faces and they'll flick their tongue. That hopefully these guys are very stubborn when they're little. Sometimes they won't flick their tongue and you're just like, just smell it. You'd like it. Like, so you have to just wait. You have to be very willing to be patient, which is one of the most frustrating things about working with candoia is that it requires patience. And if they don't take it off tongs, I leave it overnight. Some of them will eat them, some of them won't. The ones that don't take it, you're basically like, these are lizard eaters. These are ones that need anoles. I have had babies before in the past that wouldn't even take anoles though, and ended up needing like morning geckos to start, which are very expensive, to get as a snack for this tiny baby that will pass it through in a week.
Do you keep colonies of anoles and or morning geckos and or
I have a
pictus
morning
geckos?
gecko. Yeah, I have morning geckos. I actually started them a year ago or something in
Are
anticipation.
those the ones that are like parthenogenesis reproducers? Okay.
Yeah.
Have you
So-
thought about like reed frogs or
so
a
they're-
CB frog colony to
right.
support your hobbies?
I don't like
She doesn't
keeping-
want to.
Yeah, I don't like keeping amphibians. I don't really like anything with 4 legs. I'm not like I used to keep a lot of lizards and monitors and stuff, and I've just kind of gotten away from it. So even the morning gecko colony at times is too much. Like I'm like, you guys are too fast and weird.
Yeah.
But like my issue with the ones that want lizards or frogs is parasites. You're gonna introduce parasites into your captive born baby doing this. Like that's just how it is, especially if you're getting like wild caught Florida anoles or whatever. You have no idea what's going into them. And I have had many people message me saying he ate an anole and then he died 2 days later or whatever. And it's like, well,
It was probably a bad anole.
yeah, like there's all kinds of stuff that you don't know. So I don't personally like to have to do that unless it's like absolutely necessary.
So this year with how many litters you're expecting, do you think that the ones that don't take a pinky, do you think you won't work so hard? Like you'll set maybe, but you won't do the extra step of just straight anoles because you feel like
Probably not, to be honest
like
with you.
because it's like that's not the ideal situation for what we're trying to have
No,
in captive bred.
Then what you're doing is you are so the lizards are very addictive to them too, where once they finally get one, they're like, oh yeah, this is crack. Please keep giving this to me. And then it's even harder to get them onto rodents.
Right.
So I don't know. We'll see how I feel and how many I'm feeling.
How many you get, right?
Yeah, it's gonna depend a lot on that and depend a lot on their willingness to eat, and we'll just have to see. It's an ever evolving thing for me because I like every year I learn something new. I learn new tricks and
well, you're like paving the way, paving the understanding.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I don't want to take credit for everything because I've definitely like taken tips and tricks from other people to incorporate into my own stuff. There's a so another trick that I use is like tap feeding or like bother feeding, where you hold them and you sort of restrain them and take a frozen Todd pinky and boop their noses with it, and you do it kind of like kind of get them mad and they'll grab it.
Get a response, angry response.
An angry response, they'll grab it, and a lot of times they'll instinctively wrap it. And so when I do this, I'm sitting on the floor usually, and I just kind of let them wrap it, and then I just very gently like let go, and then you just have to sit there quietly and don't move and let them eat.
Yeah,
because frequently what happens is like they'll drop it and be like, oh, I don't want this. But then if you do it like 5, 6, 7 times, they'll eventually be like, oh, this is food, and they eat it.
That's what she said.
Yeah. So I have used that method to get babies started on pinkies as well, like stubborn ones that I was like, I don't want to do a nulls. We're doing this. We're doing pinkies. But it is a lot of work. It's a lot of patience again. So.
Mm-hmm. All right, Jeff asked a question. Good question. When do you feel like they're ready to go to their naturalistic, bigger vivarium? What age or like feeding number?
So my suggestion for that is if you're getting a baby, first off, please source one from someone captive breeding them. Don't just get a wild.
Who knows the difference between the two different kinds?
Yes, because it's so important. You have to make sure this animal is eating well for you before you put it into a huge bioactive vivarium or anything like that, because they will go off of food just like that for no reason, it seems like sometimes. And it's just stress. When I ship out my captive born and bred babies, I always tell people, like, you might have to jumpstart your baby with a live pinky to get it back on frozen thawed.
Yeah,
sometimes they just need that reminder, like, oh yeah, eating is good.
I have to eat here too, not just where I came from.
Yeah,
exactly.
So it's tough because you want, I love to see that, and I love when I get like updates later, like, oh my God, they're doing amazing in this environment, and I built this huge bioactive enclosure. But then I get the messages of like, they'll just throw the baby into those and be like, it won't eat. Why won't it eat? And I have to be like, you have to take it out, put it in like a 2-gallon tank, and start over.
And do the transition.
Yeah.
Do you recommend? Because this happens in corn snakes, which are like normally pretty outgoing, but I get maybe 5 messages a year, like the thing that ate 40 times for me won't eat for them. And I'm just like,
yeah, it's
just a transition tub in that cage.
Yeah.
Even for a couple weeks, they'll probably just figure it out. Their little brains are overstimulated. They have 3 brain cells and they're all 3 are busy right now. So they can't.
Also,
so you would recommend a transition tub in general for baby candoia?
So I think what they're asking is like, what age would you move them from transition to a big viv if you wanted to have a
like around a year old would be fine. Yeah, but like when I sell my babies, they're usually around like 4 to 6 months old, and they've usually, like the ones I sell, have eaten pinkies like anywhere from 10 to 20 times in a row. And I don't sell them. My personal policy is I don't sell them until they're eating unscented pinkies and have had 10 meals unscented. So
that's phenomenal.
No one else does that. Sells them.
Yeah, no one does that with any species.
Yeah, because otherwise they backtrack. They go, oh wait a minute, I don't like this. But if you're like, oh yeah, I got it. They've eaten it 2 times and you send it off, they just forget about it and they stop eating. So that's my policy. That's what I've done since I started breeding them. And I've had people be like, oh, why won't you just send it to me now? And it's like, no, trust me, you want me to wait.
Do you think Aspera is better at starting or worse? Or do you think there's like a difference? Because Aspera is like heavier bodied and maybe
it's different. It's
I don't know how many of those you've bred in total.
So I've never bred Aspera. I have gravid females right now. So this year will be my first.
That's what Jana wants to buy.
Oh,
she doesn't know it yet.
I don't even know what you're talking about because I don't understand the words you're using.
Well, they're like fat. So I think they'll match your ball python aesthetic.
Oh, yeah.
But just be a different lifestyle.
Yeah.
Right? So they're like a fat boa.
Viper boas.
Viper boas. Fat, oh, okay.
And they're very rotund. They have very big heads. And they are either mean as hell or super sweet. There's no in between. So like when 2 sides and that's it. It's very strange because you'll get ones that will just literally nail you over and over and over and over again, and they'll just like they leave nasty bites or whatever. And then I have ones that like you can't make them bite you. So
I should get a picture.
Yeah. Oh, you're pulling a picture up?
Yeah. We are a audio and visual podcast.
Nice. So those are that big red one is gravid currently. So I'm hoping for red and yellow babies from them.
So will
I want some.
The parents' temperament affect the babies, or it's just you get what you get?
I think that the temperament is affected by the attitude of the adults for sure.
Okay. Yeah. I feel like I see that as well.
Yeah.
Are these CB or long-term captive?
These are long-term captive.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I went through a crazy, I I don't know what you want to call it, like psycho period of time for myself where we bought many viper boas at once because I wanted a large group that I could watch them shed out fresh from the wild and see what they would turn into. When they come in, they're so covered in tannins and that it get caught in their scales that they're like all very ugly brown color.
Yeah, we call that jungle skin in the business.
Yeah, jungle skin. Yeah, yes. So you have to wait for them to shed their jungle skin to see what you're actually going to get. So when you're looking on like Morph Market and you see all those ugly brown viper boas, there's a good chance some of them have pretty colors underneath.
I was just going to say, there's a pretty one under there.
Yeah, somewhere under there is. So I bought a lot of them, and I parted with anything that wasn't up to my standard as far as temperament. And I only want to work with like the high color ones as well. So anything that had like low contrast or was mean, I just was like, meh, I'll just get rid of these. Oh, thank you.
They love your room.
Yeah, I told you they would love it. It's so amazing. It really
I was going to hide it. So
we told her it was awesome. So thank you for saying that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's appreciated. I just lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, but so I do really think there's a lot of temperament with the parents. Like what they're like is what you're going to get as babies.
So you were looking aesthetically, and you were also looking at personality.
Yeah, because I sold off some really gorgeous viper boas as well that were just nasty animals. And I warned them too. I was not hiding it. I was like, these are not friendly animals. Do what you will, you know.
Good luck.
But that's right. Good luck. And I had when I got into candoia and stuff, my husband is very tolerant, and I very quickly ballooned up to a very huge population of candoia. And from there, we weeded down to good temperament, good coloration, things like that I wanted to reproduce and carry on. I had some just like mind-blowingly stunning orange and red ones that I had to sell off because you couldn't even get in their cage to change their water dish. They would just be snapping and grabbing and like freaking out. So there's a lot of that with and because these are wild caught animals, you don't know what you're going to get. You don't know what the temperament is, and sometimes it takes like several generations to get out of that. Like, you know, we see it with like blood pythons and stuff where like the wild caught ones were very nasty, and then you're kind of getting to more like calmer ones. You can correct me if you think I'm going off base, but like that's what I have seen.
In general, people are like, oh, they're not as bad as we thought they were based on the ones in the wild. Or do you think Aspera are cooler than the other ones, or the same? They keep them at the same temperature. Not cool, like
cooler. Oh, okay.
Sorry. I mean, are they cooler?
They are a little cooler. I'm not gonna lie.
What's their cool rating?
Yeah, they are. Yeah, Chris, my friend just said Quinn the candoia. That is a nasty animal. She was one of the beautiful red ones that we sold. They are about the same temperature. Sorry, I was getting distracted. But yeah, I keep all my candoia pretty much at the same temperature. The Carinata and the Australis and stuff, there are records of them doing better at like 75 to 80. But I still provide like a warmer side that they can get to if they need to. I actually don't keep those anymore though, because like I said earlier at the beginning of the podcast, they're just not my thing. I just
want to focus more. Do you want to?
Why do I hate them so much?
You want to lay down on the?
They're really hard to breed. That's the big thing. Australis and Carinata, there's a reason you don't ever see captive born babies, like captive born and bred
cool
babies.
Patterns though, bro.
They're incredible.
They look like jungle
beautiful
boas, like jungle red tail boas, but with like the aberrancy because they're like chunks of sigmoid.
Yeah,
dreams.
and they have cool.
I don't know how to describe this correctly, so let's look at a picture.
Yeah, yep. Those are two Indonesian tree boas, and they're the most docile.
Let's see if I can find another one.
Most docile animals. They basically don't bite. I don't think I've ever been bit by one of them in the time I've been working with them. The Australis, which are the larger ones, the Solomon Island tree boas, those can bite, and I have been shredded by a couple
nasty bites I've heard.
Yeah, they are super docile as well, unless they think you're feeding them. And we used to have like a 7 foot long, old, totally like pitch black female that was amazing. And she unfortunately passed away last year. But she was like, you could tell she was ancient. She had a giant head and everything. But man, you could not open that cage or she'd come flying out with her mouth
I thought you were going to
open.
say that you had a 7-foot like hook to open the thing.
Oh. No, I'm not that smart.
During breeding season, I have to use, I have a like probably like 6 or 7 that you just can't trust. Anytime you open it, they are just ready to pound.
Yeah.
And so I have to open theirs with a hook, and I feel like a sissy, but they literally will wrap you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not that it's like super painful or super damaging with a ball python.
I'm just like browsing your Instagram. Sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
I was looking for tree pose,
in your
but then I got
process,
distracted.
and isn't like that great for them to be hitting you with and losing all their teeth.
I agree with you.
You don't want to get between them and their rat.
No, for sure. You're almost to where I think my tree boas were if you go
Keep going.
Yeah.
So who gets your culled babies? The ring python, the walnut
there it is,
python,
right there.
or the
Stop.
right here?
There you go. That one, and then the black one below her. So that's her light phase.
Big old fucking head.
Yeah. So that was her. They're
That's
very
beautiful steak.
Yeah, that was
Is
her
this
dark
the one
phase.
that passed away.
Mm-hmm.
She's gorgeous, and this is wild caught.
Yeah. So she was like ancient when we got her, even.
So
and she
what is
just huge?
Your wild caught intake procedure?
Oh, a lot. Like, so I have like a separate room that a quarantine room. There we go. I couldn't get the word out. I have a quarantine room set up that we put other animals into. They get dewormed. I treat them for external parasites and then internal parasites. Generally, what I do is I get them started eating first, and then I do the parasite treatment as a just in case, you know.
Do you use fenbendazole or something else?
Oh God, what do I use?
And are these injections, guys?
No,
So,
oral.
I'm terrified of wild caught because I feel like I'm going to do it wrong. Not because I think they're bad.
Sure.
Like there is definitely species that's you have to catch them because we're establishing the captive bred population, and so it's really important to have those wild caught. But I don't want to screw it up and like kill everything I own.
Right. Chris, I know you're listening. Post about what it is I do deworming with, because I can't think of the name right now.
Just the safeguard, which would be fenbendazole, which is like the white.
It's like the one that's like yellowish. I cannot think of the name.
Do you use the horse paste or the yellow goat suspension?
Yellow liquid. Yeah, I think that's
that's safeguard. That's fenbendazole. Okay. Yeah.
There we go. Pyrantel.
Pyrantel panweight.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you use like the dog version or the fish version?
It is the dog version.
Okay.
So I do I don't remember what the weight of it is, but anyway, I measure it out per weight and everything, and I do a treatment with those.
Do you like syringe it into their mouth?
Yep.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, you can do that.
I literally have no idea how you would what you would do when you had a captive bred animal.
Right. When I am doing like a really small one.
Captive bred animals.
Huh?
I worm captive bred animals.
Oh, me too.
Yeah, they eat live.
Yeah,
rats for
absolutely.
sure. They get tapeworms and pinworms.
I had to do that with the Bismarck ring pythons that I had last year. We had to worm them all because they had been eating live in the previous home that they were, and they were just like, you could tell they had worms when they got to us. So definitely I have used it on captive bred and born too. I just make sure I'm getting the dosage right. That type is not as
Chris knows the dosage.
Yeah, there we go. Thank you, Chris. He's one of my best friends. He helps me with a lot of this stuff.
Good job, Chris.
And he's excellent. You should check him out too.
Yeah, he's one of the people who's like, you need to get this lady on. And I'm
like, I was gonna say, isn't he the one that was like,
randomly.
you have to have her on? Because we're always looking for unique species because we don't want to talk about ball pythons every day. Like nobody cares about ball pythons that much.
That's not true. All the ball python people are gonna run away. It's just like you need to mix it up. Like you need to like give them a dumb ball python one and then like give them a new species intro one. And then whatever. Because otherwise they'll run away.
I was gonna say too, and then I do like RAL testing, the research animal laboratory testing.
Yeah. Have you ever gotten any candoia to pop for anything? That's my question.
To do what?
To pop positive for any.
No.
So I haven't heard it either. People ask me all the time. They're like, I have a Kenyan Sambo. What do I test for? I'm like,
technically there's no record of anything ever happening to any
No.
Kenyan sandboa. So you could do it prophylactically to be sure, but I'm not sure if it came from like a Kenyan sandboa only colony, it would
Right.
ever have anything
Right.
at all.
So
That's
you may as well just
fascinating.
do it. I do it anyway. I do like the Boid panel when I send those in. Like all my emerald tree boas get multiple tests done to make sure that they're all clean, because those are very risky.
Have you ever gotten the chlamydia, bird chlamydia in your ETBs?
I haven't.
I know people are like, if you ever feed a bird to your ETB, I'll never buy from you. And I'm
Really
like,
interesting.
they're
Interesting.
like, it's got chlamydia now, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I swear this is a CB chick that was born and then humanely euthanized and then frozen.
Interesting.
It doesn't have bird chlamydia from Peru or
Yeah.
whatever the fuck.
Are you talking about crypto too, like cryptosporidium and stuff?
Yeah, that too. I mean,
Okay, yeah,
ETBs roll
yeah.
from that, but there's a special
Yes.
kind of avian chlamydia that only ETBs die from, and we don't have a test for. So the ETB snobs are like, if you've ever even looked at a bird, I won't buy your.
That's very
emeralds.
interesting. I've never heard that, and I am in a lot of emerald tree boa
Oh my
forums as
god!
well.
Let's get on the chlamydia train. It's very confusing because there's no good
It is.
answers right now.
No.
They just roll and it sucks. And it's usually
Yes.
wild caught ETBs that have it because they're fed just like whatever birds are floating around in the
Right.
the bag or whatever they're in on their way to be exported.
So the problem is that they go to centers or where so many birds are also being kept, and the droppings are in the air and everything, that the cross contamination gets to them.
Maybe they
and
huff bird doo doo.
That's
You're
that's emeralds are known to huff bird doo doo. That's very common.
Huffing bird doo doo. Give
Yeah.
you chlamydia. You heard it
Yeah.
here first, guys. Don't huff
Right.
bird doo doo.
And so even though candoia from like the Solomon Islands doesn't have arena virus, which is endemic in South America, because they get imported through the scariest importers who then like pile them all into one room, they could get arena, but they may be so divergent that like sand boas, they
They're
seem
just
to
not
resist
susceptible.
arena, but we
Right.
don't know. So
Can't
every
get a
time everybody
foothold.
asks me, I'm like, do the Boyd panel, but
Right.
I don't fucking know. There's no literature.
We don't know until we know, and then it's too late.
Exactly, until you know.
Right.
And that's why like I just do it to be done and to be safe. I would rather not have that in my collection if I can help it. So even if you don't like, especially if you notice something weird, like if you get it and there's something off about it, just test it. Just save yourself the pain of having that animal. Yeah, and
Have
it's
you ever
not
heard
hard.
of sunshine virus getting into Australis? Because it's technically there. Because it's in the pythons there.
I have worried about that before for sure. That's another reason I don't really keep them. But I've never had anything come back with a positive for those.
Yeah.
So
These are the hard ones where you're like, it's a rare
Yeah.
species, a
It's-
rare virus. We
Yeah.
don't know the risk levels, but it's hard to be like prophylactically go nuts.
Right.
I would just be like, go a little bit nuts,
Just
go
do- yeah,
nuts
just
where it
test.
feels comfortable.
Right. That's why I just worm. I worm everything just to be safe, and then I do the test just to be safe. I don't know. That's just what I like
Have you
to
ever
do.
seen crypto in candoia? Does it eat them?
Not in candoia. I've seen it in emeralds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Jana,
So
hand was up in the back.
There is some questions from the ball
Oh,
python
sure.
portion of the audience. I know we've touched on this a little tiny bit, Jessica, but they're questioning about worming ball pythons because I know you have. You want to tell your
Mhm.
procedure
I would
is
definitely
and why?
ball pythons
and-
because they suck and they went live a lot. So I would do it.
Don't
You
you
could
do it
sit-
like yearly? Isn't what you
That's
said
an
before?
approximate. It can be different. It depends on how much frozen thaw I've been eating. If they start to look like their stools are looser than usual, they usually have. If you see adult worms, that's a problem. But they'll
Yeah.
have like looser
Yeah.
stools, hardiness. A percent of worm load is quite natural. It's when the worm load gets high because they're in a tub and they're always like reinfecting themselves that then you want to knock the population back down. So
When they're smearing and huffing their own worm-filled poop.
So if I see an unusual number of loose stools, then I will worm like a whole rack or whatever.
And what procedure do you use to worm ball pythons?
I do.
Just for
normally-
disclaimer, none of us are veterinarians.
Yeah, don't.
Consult your veterinarian or Dr.
I normally
Google.
use Safeguard, which is effective on pinworms, but not tapeworms. But the toxic dose is really far away from the effective dose, so you can actually like accidentally blow past it. Which if you're like wiggling around with a syringe or whatever. You're supposed to do it 3 days in a row, and then about 20-something days later, 3 days again. So you can't necessarily do everybody, but you can do some of them, and you can put it in your rats.
I was just gonna say, can't you deworm your rats and feed those rats to your snake, and it will deworm your snake as well?
Well, it depends on the kind of wormer, because they have like a half-life in the rat as their rat's liver chews it up. I know weirdos who will like inject rats, like frozen thawed rats, with their wormer to pass it, and that's fine. But fenbendazole requires 3 doses every day for 3 days, so you can't feed them 3 times. Or maybe you can. I don't know. But that's not how
some of them might. Yeah, some of them might like that. But.
Yeah, I know a lot of little snacks. Don't talk about worms in ball pythons, but some of the more difficult feeders and things, like maybe they have a gut full of worms. Maybe we need to be like more cognizant.
Or just like weird protozoa that just happen to like come in on a mouse or whatever. Yeah. That happens. Yeah. It's not that weird. I showcased Serpents, a ball python breeder, in his interview like a year ago. Justin talked about losing a breeder male ball python just to worm load. He just got a little like immunosuppressed over the breeding season. The worm load was just enough. They necropsied him. He didn't have nido, didn't have arena. He just had worms. A totally treatable thing. Wow. So it's worth thinking about anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Sorry to sidebar. People were curious, and I know that that's a good topic.
Somebody was asking what's a candoia. I don't know if you want to show anything or. Candoia is a genus of snakes that we're talking about today. So like Solomon Island ground boas. Was
Wikipedia's Candoia taxonomy correct currently? Close enough.
That's not a problem.
Like yeah.
Like at the genus level? Motherfucker. So Aspera, Biberni, Carinata, Paulsoni, Superciliosa.
And there's more than that that's not even listed. So there are so many subspecies that aren't even photographed, which is absolutely infuriating. There we go. There's a good list of them. The Rosadae, McDowley, all that. Vindumi.
Has McDowley been in the hobby yet?
Yep. And there are no photos of them as evident, like to determine like maybe this is a Rosadae that I have, but you would never know because there's no photographic evidence to base that on. So
how do they name it if they don't have a photograph of it?
Well, the type specimens are in a museum somewhere.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, right.
Okay. That's how it exists, but they don't necessarily take a picture of it and go like, hobbyist, here's how you ID it.
Exactly. I have tried very, very, very hard to find photo evidence of these other mysterious ones. These like 3 or 4 other ones that exist that like there just isn't anything.
You know what we need? We need Dr. Warren Booth.
Yeah.
We need just like a microsatellite test, and then you could just be like this one is pure pulsoni or whatever. Yeah. Because it has these 10 microsatellite markers.
I wish.
Or RGI, Ben.
Yeah, Warren, get right on that.
Hurry up.
Seriously, that'd be amazing. That'd be amazing.
The hard part is like we don't know what we have is what we think it is. So when we make the standard, it may not come back. We'd have to go to the wild.
Right, absolutely. Right. Yes.
No, I 100% agree with you. There's no way to prove where anything came from, unfortunately. Like that's why I have so many issues with all that locale stuff where they claim it comes from this island or that island or whatever, when really they all go to the same islands to be imported or exported out. And like you can't prove that's from Isabel Island or wherever you think that's from. Like all the Tasmais get called Halmahera boas, but they don't all come from Halmahera either. So there's a lot of that out there. That's very frustrating.
The hobby and their lingo, their buzzwords that ruin
it. Ruiners. Yeah.
Has anybody successfully bred the tree? Any of the trees? Or is just very few have bred them?
Very, very few are even bothering to try right now. So I believe there are some captive. I think there's like 1 or 2 instances of Australis, the Solomon Island tree boas, being captive bred, but it's like very rare. And I do not believe there's anybody that has captive born and bred Indonesian tree boas. I know that there are some that captive born, ones that come in gravid and then they give birth and then they're trying to claim they're captive born and bred. I have seen that before. But I don't, and I know there are people working with them, but they are incredibly difficult to stimulate to breed. So I think that like it's
Jana
years.
knows how to stimulate people to breed.
Yeah.
Anyway, get in there, girlfriend. You could crack the case.
I can crack it. No, I'm not the nerdy person to do that because I know very little at this point.
I thought I wanted to work with them and I thought I wanted to try those as well, but like I have so much else going on that's time consuming.
I know, girlfriend, you're
crazy.
crazy.
Like your whole focus.
Right. I can't. I just don't have the bandwidth.
Beautiful. So who eats the culls? Let's go back to that question.
King snakes.
Everybody?
Yeah, king snakes.
Do you feature like womas and ring python snakes, or are you scared that they're going to eat their boyfriends/girlfriends?
No, the woma pythons will eat them. Blackhead pythons will eat them. King snakes will eat them. I have friends with king snakes that'll eat them. The Cape File snakes. I have a friend that is working on breeding those, and so any culls I have this season will probably go to that to help his project.
Didn't you have file snakes?
I did have file snakes, so
I don't anymore.
I do not anymore.
Let's get a picture for Jana.
Yeah, I had the cross eye. Lima.
Did you not? Did you? Why did you decide to move on, or?
I
was tired of their bad attitude. I don't know.
No, they didn't have a bad attitude. No, not at all. So I went through a pretty hard period of burnout for a while there. And it kind of just got compounded with like other things that were happening. I had a job transition. I have 2 kids. I have a 2-year-old that had a speech delay and everything. So there was a lot going on, and I had way too many difficult projects lined up to work on. So I had to cut back on I'm not as passionate about these guys. The files.
Did the sunbeams get cut also?
The sunbeams were miserable animals to keep. I don't know if you've ever had them.
Yeah, I had them a long time ago when everything was shit. So, but mine was okay. Yeah. He was just an explosive like graboid demon who would pop out for food, and that's it. Yeah,
there are enough other people working with captive breeding programs that I felt like it's weird because I have this like weird guilt. Like I have these weird species that I feel like I should be breeding because I have them, where these like April Linkfield breeds these cross-eye every year. I don't know if you're familiar with her. But so I was able to be like, I can let go of this project because I know other people are working on it. I don't know if that makes sense to you.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
You're like, I can move on guilt-free because it's being done somewhere.
Yeah.
It's not being lost to the captive.
Right.
Who else is doing the Peruvian calico snakes?
So I bought my Peruvian calicos from Stan Grumbeck. There are definitely only a few people in the US that even have them right now. Like I know Stan Grumbeck is breeding them. Obviously I got them from him, and then he sold some to I can see his logo in my head.
I'm the same way. That's how I remember people, is their logo picture, and then I can never remember their name, and it's
Glenn Reptiles. So Glenn Reptiles,
he's pretty big. He'll be able to like promo them.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Like
good.
Yeah.
I don't even know if that makes any sense.
there are some European people that are working with them and breeding them successfully, but there's definitely not a lot in the US right now. And they don't produce very many offspring every year either, so that's part of the issue.
Yeah.
But they are super
when
cool.
they turn red, and or the ones that turn red, I don't know if they all turn red. Those
Some
ones
of them
are fun. Orangey red.
Yeah. They can turn like that pumpkin orange, or like they get this like gunmetal blue kind of color, and like
pretty.
So they're very they're variable, so you kind of can't determine what they're going to look like as adults.
Do they eat mice normally? Do they be started weird? This is probably a new species for lots of people watching.
Yeah.
Give them their stump speech of like how awesome they are. Go.
Wait. What's their common name?
Common Peruvian calico snake, or Peruvian coastal sand snake is another one that they go by.
Okay, and then all the parties in the
snake,
audience. What's the scientific name?
Oxyropus fitzingeri.
Okay.
I fell in love with them a while ago. That whole genus is really fascinating to me. They're all very cool. they're not bitey. They're not really like, they remind me very much of like a corn snake.
Look for more pictures. Yeah.
In a lot of ways, they're very corn snake like. There's another one you just scrolled by. Keep going. There it is.
Ooh, that one's cool.
But they're very corn snake like. I keep them basically identically to like a corn snake. They live great on like shredded aspen and.
So the adult phase colors, you said you've seen like orange or gunmetal blue. What are the baby phase colors? Because that one's really like yellow, and the other one was very like brown.
Yeah, they change a lot as they are getting ready to shed too. But like the two I have is like the one is very like, it's a deeper yellow, and then the other one is more of like a pale yellow. So I'm not anticipating that one to color up. Yeah, go for it. Yeah, absolutely.
So do you think we'll be able to predict better as we have more experience with them, what colors turn into what colors, or do you think it's completely random?
It's hard because when they're little, they're so pale and they don't start really coloring up until about a year of age. So you almost have to like hang on to them if you're trying to like line breed for color.
Right.
So like the ones I got from Stan Grumbeck, I think were my females a 2019, and like the one that was in my hand just now in that picture, she's a 2019 animal. Like that's very small still.
Well, that remind me of like buttermilk racers.
Yeah, kind of.
But different body plan. But
isn't that amazing?
Orange was hot.
Yeah, I'm hoping that she turns orange. That would be so cool.
That would be really cool.
Even when they're not orange, they're like a punchy, dynamic look.
Yeah, absolutely. They're just gorgeous, and they're very docile. They're very gentle, like snakes. They're not hard to start.
The whole genus is like badass.
Yes. Oh yeah, look at that. Isn't that amazing?
So are they in? They're in Peru, but are they in like Trinidad? Because Peru's closed for exports.
Yes. Yeah. Their range kind of goes up a little bit. So, but they and then they there's a what's the other?
Like, is there a country that exports any member of the genus? Let me ask that.
There's like they will like where emeralds are collected, they'll find them there too, and they'll send them. So they kind of come in the same shipment sometimes. But it's not common anymore. You really don't see them. I don't know if the collection rate is very low or what it is, or if they're just hard to find. But they really rarely come in. I don't think I've seen any Fitz and Jerry imported, like wild caught. I don't know if that area is just closed down. I honestly haven't looked into that very much.
Yeah, Peru's been closed for a long time. So if most of that kind is on like the the like western side of the Andes, then
and that's when that Pringles can allegedly comes in service.
No, allegedly.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
There's another Oxyropus species that does get collected and brought in like once or twice a year, and they will go up and come down.
Species name?
My brain is failing me, so hang on. Let me see.
That's fine. We can all fail together. I like the orange and black Halloween look a lot. It's hot.
Okay. Oxyropus petularius. So the forest flame snake is one of their common names.
Forest flame
snake. That's a badass name.
Sounds like a Pokemon.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah. And those will come in. There you go.
Wow.
10.
Isn't that cool?
That's hot.
Those are amazing animals. Like that in the infographic that's like got all the different sizes on the right side of the screen. Yeah, that one. That website is an excellent source of information for those.
Reptiles of Ecuador, everybody.
Yeah.
Check it out.
Yeah. So if you're a ball python breeder, their name did not disappoint. Learn from it.
Yeah, accuracy and labeling. It should be a thing. So and these eat mice the whole time, or do they have a little bit of
those are a little harder
frogginess?
Yeah. So these guys really like their lizards and stuff. You can get them to switch on to pinkies, but they're not as easy to as like the Fitz and Jerry.
What about Patola?
The Petularia? Oh, this one. Oh, yeah. I haven't worked with that one, so I know. I'm not sure.
From Costa Rica, you'd think there would have been some in the hobby at some point. All right, we're just getting like wistful.
Really? I wish these were over here too. Yeah.
Get them.
Usually, the only place I ever see them for sale is on Underground.
Well, sometimes we got to take one for the team. So if everyone takes one for the team from underground, we could probably put together a breeding colony that is not
I
dead
have
or
done
whatever.
that. I have done
All
that.
right, you're a team player. Thank you for your
Sometimes
service.
you just gotta
You're
suck it
welcome.
up and get them from where you don't want to get them because that's where they're available.
Yep.
Yeah, I really want what is it? Jaeger's ground snake, the little green and red one.
I
You
mean,
know what I'm talking about?
I'm not sure.
Looks like a Christmas tree in a snake form. And I only see it ever from underground. So it's like green on top, red stomach, but with like a green or red stripe.
Wow.
Jaeger's ground snake.
Beautiful.
Semi-aquatic, it says.
Oh, I love semi-aquatic. Like
they're like a little garter snake kind of thing, but they're real little.
Like
but they look like a
looking
Christmas
too.
tree.
Yeah.
And they're CB in Europe, and every once in a while we'll get it imported. And I want them a lot because they remind me weird.
They remind me of Aurora house snakes. I really want to get my hands on those someday.
So would these be like guppy and frog, like tadpole and pinkies eaters, or
I don't know.
Oh,
to be honest,
that would be my guess,
but probably.
Okay.
And then like the swampy velvet snakes. Have you ever seen those?
Those are cool too.
They come in sometimes, and I'm like, should I start the plan? And then I'm like, plan is not started. Because they get like this, like the velvet is the correct word. It's like smooth looking.
It's very pretty,
and they really do look like velvet. That's insane.
There's like this like counter shade thing that's happening. No, we're just talking about weird snakes now.
There's like one guy I know of that's captive producing them right now.
He should keep going.
Yeah.
The audience says they love learning about new snakes, Jessica.
But they hate it too. And I feel that really hard.
I know sometimes something like gets a fire under your butt, and like that could be your thing for the next 10 years. And you didn't even know that was your thing for the next 10 years.
That's what happened with me and Candoia. So
I need to find my thing. My thing.
You're like niche and
I'm waiting. I'm hunting for it. We'll see.
What the fuck?
What's Jessica doing?
I got back onto the
she's on iNaturalist.
What the fuck?
What is
Let's
that?
go with this. I don't even care. Sign me up.
Put it in the Pringles can.
In the can.
Tonight. We gotta call underground. Get some of these, man.
Especially when they turn like
take
this
one
like
for the team.
Blue, fluffy. I don't know. I will.
Fascinating.
Take one for the team. I just like, to me, like it's gotta have, even if it's hard to take care of or whatever, it has to be like still a good pet. So it's gotta be not too big, not rear fang venomous where it's medically significant, not like so bougie or overpriced that it's not like an animal someone can actually want and achieve.
Like Amazon basins.
Yeah, unfortunately, they're awesome looking, but like it's become a thing, like a status symbol instead of like we're trying to make them work in the hobby for people.
It sucks. It really sucks.
Or Bolins. The guy or girl who is really good at breeding Bolins will never breed them because they can't afford to buy a pair.
Yep,
exactly.
Yeah, there we go.
So true.
If I had $30,000, I'd buy myself some nice Amazon basins and crank those out. But
right, it's fine. We can complain about all we want, but it means like your attention has to go to a species where like there's like a viable chance of it being like a boutique pet market animal. And so those are the species that I'm like most interested in like applying these efforts to. You know, no 20-foot mainland retics for me, brother.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Most of my animals are like gonna cap out at like 4 feet. You know, that's just more my thing. That's just what I'm into. So
I'm the same. Yeah.
Me too.
4
Even
to
though I
5
have
feet
boas,
is
I just
really
like.
See, I need to go back through. We did a whole boa episode, and I need to go back in because I'm really fascinated by the boa localities. And we went through a whole bunch. Jessica just like iNaturalist us to death.
Yeah,
and it was really cool. And it's like I would love a smaller boa, like you're breeding, like a smaller boa species that's flashy, but that's calm and like a pet appropriate snake, but is super unique.
Yeah, it's tough because you get like this one's really pretty, but it's really nasty. Or
you have to make hard choices.
You really do. You really do.
All right, let's talk about pretty and not nasty.
Oh yeah.
So you have Russians, Saharans, Kenyans, and Ruffies? Is that it?
And Indians.
Oh, and Indians.
Yeah.
How stupid are they looking?
Oh, they're so stupid.
That's my favorite part.
Yeah.
It's like they're like the dumbest designed animal.
Oh, yeah.
But that's
So
like
derpy.
it like hits the next level and it's like awesome.
But they're
Well, like people post sand boas and you're just like, that has got to be a doctored photo, and it's not.
Oh no. Yeah, they're for real. Yeah. Oh,
But I love them.
yeah, I love them too. Sand boas were really like one of my first loves. I've been working with sand boas for 20 years. And I've been in and out of different kinds over the years. Kenyans are obviously like a staple in the sand boa community, and breeding wise, they have so much genetic diversity already, and like morphs and whatnot. But like I am really growing to love and appreciate like my Saharan sand boas, which they're treated like trash of the hobby. Like they are treated like garbage throwaway snakes.
Why do you think that is? Or
because they are imported for literal dollars per head. To the point where like at my local expos, there will be buckets under the table with them starving to death, covered with parasites, and they peddle them off for $30 a piece to anybody that walks by.
Covered in parasites.
Oh yeah. like ticks, mites,
Ruby.
like all the Michigan, Indiana shows have that going on.
Whoa.
So my whole thing has been like, you know, I'm trying to captive breed them to offer that, like captive bred and born. Like there are very few people in the US successfully breeding them. It's some of those people don't even want to talk to you. Like I've tried really hard to connect with some of them, and some of them don't even want to they won't even respond to your messages. So it's really hard to get accurate or good information or good tips for breeding. And so they tend to be like really underrepresented in the hobby as captive born and bred. So they're super behind as far as like patterns and morphs and line breeding, and like, you know, they are just treated like trash essentially, which is, it's incredibly frustrating because no animal should be treated like that, right? But
absolutely, yeah. Every animal has value, whether it has monetary value or not. It has other value.
Yeah,
and it's probably really hard to establish a captive bred when you're competing with a bucket full for $30. Like
it's so hard.
Like people don't understand that this is tick full, parasite full, like probably not going to survive. The everyday person doesn't understand that.
I can't explain to you the number of people that come up to my table at expos and they just don't have any concept of of captive bred and born versus wild caught and why that matters. And there's I don't know what happened, but there's this influx of a ton of people that just don't even care. They're just looking, and maybe that's always been there, but I feel like it's been very difficult, especially when you have these like weird boas that very few people.
Do you have a hard time selling weird on a table? Because I've taken Chlamydophora, which are blue-green adults, but they look like gray little shits when they're born. So like I've taken them to shows and they sell none.
Yeah,
and they sell online like that because they don't get it. I could do a picture of the adults, but even then they're like, I don't like it.
No,
it's ugly.
You have to, like, you almost have to bring an adult to the show to be like, this is what it's going to look like. This is the size it'll get. And then you're risking, you know, the health of the animal that's a breeding snake for you or whatever as well. So it is tough.
So the Saharans do the thing. We talked about this, Jana, on the what the fuck was it? The placenta show, where snakes have done reversals from live bearing to egg laying. They've reversed. So this is an example of the reversal.
Yeah. And this
talk about that you've experienced the joys of boas that lay eggs.
I've experienced the joys of being told that I'm wrong.
Midwife. Oh,
and they don't hatch from eggs, and I am incorrect.
Well, there's an egg to me.
That looks like an egg.
Yeah. I have little shriveled up eggs right here to prove.
Oh, cool! Is that what's hatching right now?
Yeah. Well, these are my Saharans. Yeah, these are from my clutch that just hatched a couple days ago.
So who mansplained to you that they didn't hatch from eggs?
It happens a lot.
Okay.
To the point where I get comments. I'll delete them off my Instagram.
All right. Delete away.
I get private messages of
block.
Yeah, I get a lot of them. I'm like, you are incorrect. These don't lay eggs. And I'm like, no, they do, because I have seen them with my own eyeballs. Like it's just so bizarre. I've had that happen to me with those, and like I've had people tell me I was lying about the pinkies with the Solomon Island ground boas. It's like as soon as you have something strange, someone's gonna show up and tell you that you're wrong with your own lived experience.
Yeah, bro, he's been doing it his way for 50 years, so you've got to be wrong if you're having a better success rate.
He keeps his Saharans in a bucket.
Yeah.
So,
so I had someone tell me that they thought that Saharan sand boas and Kenyan sand boas were just different words for the same snake species. So like they are that
interesting theory there, buddy.
Very interesting, but wrong, so you need a penis, they said. That's true.
I know. I feel like if I just taped a dildo to like my chesticles here, it would just like
tattooed
represent
one on my face. Is this enough penis for you to take me serious?
Exactly.
I get it a lot, and it's very frustrating. I've had to be like literally scroll my Instagram. You can see the pictures of them hatching. Like I'm not hiding. Yeah, a quick Google search would prove it. Like,
just go by Chris, and they'll all assume you're a dude, and then they'll think that you're brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, I'm waiting for someone to tell me that's Photoshop. Like
this is the 4D chest, fucking CIA implant.
It's.
You glued Kenyan sandals into these ball python eggs, didn't you?
Yep, you 3D printed those. I heard you had a printer.
God, you got
They're
me.
so fake.
Dang it. This is 3D printed too. No.
I'll take 10.
Sorry, we're being a little bit.
It's okay.
We should kooky.
Or being kooky. No, yeah, I think it's bullshit, but I think that species is extremely cool evolutionarily because they were like,
yeah,
man,
they're like, fuck this.
Being pregnant is dumb.
Yeah. You know what the weirdest thing about them is though? They hold their eggs inside their bodies forever. Like
so they're like halfway doing it.
Yeah,
so they're
it's
halfway
really weird.
Mm-hmm. It's cool because diamonds do the same thing where they're like, shit's got crazy around here. So I'm just gonna do halfy incubation and then halfy out.
Then I gotta dip out and get some food.
Well, and do you know how fast the Saharan eggs hatch? They hatch in like average is 10 to 20 days.
Whoa.
Right, it's in between.
Yeah,
so
they're really cool because they have this like thin shell, so you know, like they're trying to think about evolving the other way, but they're like, I'll just
they were like, I don't know. They haven't made up their mind, but
it's sort of like see-through. So did you have any like tips and trips? Because I don't think anyone on a podcast has ever talked about this, to my knowledge, anywhere ever. So like, how did you incubate these weird thin?
So really important that you have to make the female understand there's a nest box in the cage, because otherwise she will lay them on the ground and then you're screwed because you cannot move them or they pop. So you have to keep showing her the nest box over and over again. I literally like physically every day put them back in the nest box to remind them that it's there, because I've heard of like very often people will be like, oh, I had like a wild caught one drop eggs, but they did it in their water dish or they did it on the ground or whatever because they didn't know. But they're just kind of, I don't know if dumb's the word, but it's like they forget that they can get back into it. So I like a lot of people that have attempted it in the past will actually move the entire snake into like a wet sand enclosure where they can't escape it. And then it forces them to for sure lay there. But I haven't had that happen yet. I've only had 2 clutches so far though. So, crossing my fingers that never happens to me. But you basically have to be prepared for like, wherever those eggs are laid, that's it.
That's where you're incubating them.
Yeah, that's where you're incubating them. So you have to take that entire container and move it carefully into your incubator.
And put some sand around it.
Yeah. Like
how wet is the sand? Or it looks pretty like,
it's
sandcastle wet. It'll hold structure, but
sandcastle wet is a perfect way to describe it.
Right,
so
perfect.
And then I end up like pouring water in around the perimeters to keep it moist while they're incubating, because it evaporates or whatever. But I'm slowly fine-tuning my method or like my boxes that I want to use. So I found this like really cool cake box. It's like circular and it fits perfect into like most incubators. And then there's a really convenient lid that comes off of it. And then so I can take the one that has the cut hole and replace it with the one that doesn't have a cut hole. And that's actually way better for, keeping the humidity up.
What temperature do you incubate these?
89.
Okay, so like a sort of normally pythonish type temperature. You know what it looks like to me? Soup dumplings. I kind of want to eat them.
Yeah, kind of.
I'm so sorry. I keep being like, I would dip that in some sort of spicy oil.
And it's really fascinating because you can see the embryos basically as soon as they're laid. They're on the
Yeah,
bottom.
I think you have a picture with light shining on it somewhere.
Yeah,
We were just
definitely.
looking at it just a minute.
I've tried to show it. It's really hard to show on camera.
I went too far.
And then
you see how the like transparent, like the calcium. I'm sure like
it's super weird. Those 2 eggs in that picture on the left side were like really long and skinny too, which is very it was very unusual because the other 3 were like normal.
Is this a normal clutch size? 5?
Yeah, 5 is normal. So when I had my 9 eggs laid a couple months ago, it was like, wow, that's a lot of eggs. And they so you incubate them exactly as you find them. I sometimes clear some of the sand off the top just in case they don't like. I don't know. I'm paranoid. I want to be able to watch their development. And that way you can see what they're doing because they will escape into the sand underneath. And then you're like, oh, it hatched. What the hell? Where's the baby? And
where did it go?
Right. And they'll actually go and burst open other eggs if you're not careful because they will go and burrow around. And if you're not, if you're not catching them in time.
Oh, so they'll premature
today.
other people. That's crazy.
Right, because they're in such a small container for the eggs, and their immediate instinct is, to go underground. So I try to pull them out as soon as they are pipping, and I'll actually put each individual egg sac into their own little containers to let them finish coming out of their egg on their own. So I just that's how I do it. But
I had a snake drown itself after it emerged the egg by going back in an egg,
like face first.
Wow.
Yeah, and it drowned itself
too. Yeah.
This is a corn snake, so it's like extra stupid, right?
Yeah, that's extra stupid. Yeah. Wow.
But I was just like, maybe you guys are. I usually let them pip in the. Yeah. It's a big cage; they can go away. But he like chose not life.
He chose death. Yeah.
So maybe I'll just start like
the
second they emerge, moving them to an egg-free zone so they can continue to choose life over here. I mean, the king snake got a snack, but I was just like, can't trust you guys to do any amount of living.
Oh my god!
Turns out
that's weird. Yeah, it's cool though. When these guys hatch, it completely deflates like a wet balloon. There's like no cell structure.
Come on, let's eat some. I'm kidding.
I don't know.
Okay, so like which obviously Kenyans are more popular and Saharans aren't, but like Roughies and Russians have pretty good prices on them. Like which ones are like the normies at a table wanting to buy? Kenyans because they're cheap or
Kenyans, Kenyans, and they have so many different colorations, and they've just like even the normals are gorgeous as babies. So definitely Kenyans are like the easiest to sell. Rough scales are a little harder because as babies they can be kind of nippy and kind of like they do a lot of the like flipping around and stuff. As a defensive mechanism. So
little shits. They're like my like aesthetic favorites. Like they have a very boa-ish head. With so like face. Like boa and then fat. So it's like cute.
Yeah.
But it's not helpful that they are mostly a brown or tan. It's charming to me, but I think a Norman would look at that and be like, I want a Kenyan.
Exactly.
Orange and
so it makes it really hard to sell them at expos for that reason because they go like, oh, I could have this weird brown snake or I could have this bright orange and black snake.
Sorry, I'm picking the orange and black.
Yeah. and Kenyans for the most part are going to be cheaper than a lot of the rough scales it shows too. Like they're usually $200 to $250, up to $300 or something. It just depends on like color and.
So what? Let's say you're a ball python breeder and your name's Jana, and you want a Sambo, a recommendation. Which one would you recommend a ball python breeder to add to their program as like a good complement to like a pet type table? Kenyans, or do you think like being the weirdo with Russians or something would be like?
You want my honest opinion?
Yes, this is an honest place.
So as a pet, I would suggest Russians. Russian sandboas are phenomenal pets. They're
also like very attractive. To me.
Can we bring those up so I can see what they look like?
So bring some pictures up.
I'm doing it.
The problem with Russian sandboas is that they are very expensive still. Like the cheapest Russian sandboa you can get is like $500 or something. So
right, but for ball python people, that's easy. They're like not a problem.
Yeah, but I don't think a ball python people.
people,
Right.
not to sell as pets.
No.
But we could afford to buy the breeding group. But
Exactly.
the sellability, to
The
convince someone
sellability.
to spend that much
So,
on a.
Unless your name is Rufus Darden, Brady Nelson, I think is his name, or like there's one or two others that breed Russian sandboas, you will not sell them. That is my advice.
Okay.
Wait, is this the color they are?
Some of them
those
are black, some of them are like silver and gray.
That's a super black.
I
So
don't
the super
love
black
that.
form is the most popular because they are like glossy and beautiful.
Yeah, they're hot, Jana. You would
Those are
like
hot.
it. Trust me.
Okay.
They have
I'm
to
not
be
super into like the blacks, like even like Mexican black king snakes.
Yeah.
No, I'm not super into like the solid black snake. I like is it the white-lipped python that's like iridescent rainbow and black?
Which one?
Yeah, the white.
You're talking about like northern.
Oh yeah, white-lipped. Yeah.
That's like the only
black snake.
snake. Well,
yeah, but
and
it's
then,
like shiny and black.
Oh yeah,
like shiny.
And
it's not iridescent and black, but it's shiny.
They're so soft. It's really hard to explain how soft they are. And their personalities are amazing. They're very outgoing, very adventurous. I actually had to take them out of. I had like nice terrariums set up for them at one point, and they were just destroying and pulling the heat panels down, and like it was crazy. Like
I just like the speckled on dark, like the gray.
Oh, yeah. That is sexy.
That's still a Russian. So you
okay, well, but the other one looked like a turd. I'm sorry. That's sexy AF. I would buy that.
The only other problem with these that is keeping people from working with them more is they are extremely hard to reproduce and they are extremely hard to start as babies. So they have to come down to 40 degrees to brumate for about 3 to 4 months. And if you don't get them that cold, they don't reproduce very well. And then the babies don't come out very strong. And then many of the babies will not eat until you put them through a brumation period as well. Which is 40 degrees. Yeah, it's crazy.
Wow, that is way crazy. So they live on their like egg yolk in brumation.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Wow.
I think that's doable though still. Like
for sure.
Russians are like that, and a lot of the northern Dione locales are like that, where they just like wake up, they're hatched, and like, I gotta go to sleep. This is bullshit.
Yeah, some rat snake species and stuff.
So you'd have to have like, if you lived in a temperate area, you'd have to have like a wine cooler.
Yes.
Yeah. You can set that shit to 45 or 40, whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking about running it anyway, just so I could run Diones earlier in the year, so they could like be ready sooner. Because my little basement is 70 fucking degrees all the way until December.
Wow.
It's so bullshit.
Yeah, they're just they're also like Russians right now are like so many people don't even know they exist, but they're very niche and they're very
bougie.
Yeah, they're very bougie because the price point on them is still so high for even just a basic brown one.
But if they're that difficult to breed, then that might be why they're commanding a higher price.
The problem with that, and I'm gonna argue with you a little bit on that, is that if no one's buying them at that price point, are they really worth that price point?
No, they are not.
Okay, because I have watched, and this is no shade to anybody, I've watched the same animals sit on Morph Market for like over a year now.
Yeah.
The same like 30 sandbo like,
and they haven't changed their price?
Nope.
Interesting.
Right. That's like a morph problem too. Like, is a morph really worth $2,000 if everyone's trading it behind the scenes, but no one buys it for the sale price?
$1,500 behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Right. So like that can happen to a whole species too.
Yeah, it's an interesting debate. Because like, I don't know. I have purchased them at that price point. But I also I watch them just sit there. And like at some point you have to be like, okay, maybe the price should come down because the average person isn't going to drop $500 on a brown dirt snake.
I'm not sorry.
I don't know.
That like speckly one though, I would snap that up quick.
Yeah, those are very cool. Those are like the silver sides or gray sides they call them. So, but like the people that work with them are super knowledgeable and are amazing individuals, and like I have nothing but respect for them. But it's an interesting side of the sandboa hobby.
So you think they should do Kenyans?
Yeah.
With like Morphe type inclination. For sure. To make it fun.
Yeah. I get to babysit a collection of Kenyan boas.
Oh yeah.
In July for a month. I'm pretty excited.
Very cool.
because I don't have really any like handling experience with them. So I'm excited.
Don't go in face first. Like, don't go in at their face because they will grab you.
Okay. Good advice.
You scoop
them up from behind. Okay.
Yeah. Because otherwise they will do the like from the sand to get you.
Don't you have to like unbury them in the aspen or
just watch for where the face is and then just kind of do an estimate in your mind. We're like, oh, this must be where the halfway point is, and just kind of scoop underneath. So the more you like dig and stuff, they're gonna turn around and nail you because they're like, oh, it's a mouse.
It's a mouse. I'm gonna eat it.
That's what the instinct is. They go looking for whatever is disturbing the bedding. So you just want to like get in there and get them out. So,
okay.
Gravoids.
Yes, absolutely. They're fantastic though. I love my Kenyans. I have quite a few Kenyan sand boas. I think the genetic diversity in them is amazing. There's a lot of new stuff.
What's your favorite Kenyan morph?
Oh, I really like Gene X, which is like GX is what it's abbreviated to a lot, where it's a reduction of patterning and it cleans up the face. So there's no spots on the face. And then the actual little spots turn like very small down their size of their body. So
I think HRP is GX.
Nope, it's different. So HRP is it's a totally different gene. There's and it's funny because there are multiple genes in sand boas that do a very similar thing.
Jess, will you pull that up?
Yeah.
Holloway
a Gene X one or a Holloway?
The Gene X.
Let's just look around in here. You can keep talking. I'll keep looking.
Yep, that's a Gene X.
Okay.
So that's so I wouldn't even have immediately thought that was a sand boa.
Yeah, I've had people ask me if it was a blood python or something. And I was like, does that really look like a blood python to you? But I don't know.
Gorgeous.
I like all of the reduced pattern ones because they like make it very different looking, no matter what's going on. Otherwise, like paint is still cool too. So it's just like, and then if you put anery or whatever, it becomes super high contrast and like dramatic cookies and cream. But I was just like, they're all doing almost the same thing. HRP,
very similar.
Gene X and paint, but paint's like more clearly different. And I'm like, what's
paint
the best thing?
Yeah, here? So those are like this animal is a combination of two recessives. This is Gene X and paint being expressed at the same time. So like a normal GX wouldn't have that clean back like that, but the paint combined with the Gene X is showing that. And then there is also some line breeding going on too, from like selecting the nicest ones and doing that as well. So like an F like a first expression or a first generation from like ones that are het, you won't get that nice clean reduction as much. But there's a lot, like I really like the pearl paradoxes. Those are super cool. It's a hypo albino paradox.
Yeah, they have like a whole gene that's reproducible of paradox.
Yes.
That's fascinating to me because there is paradoxing in ball pythons, but it's random.
So the regular albino Kenyan sand boas are not compatible with paradox albino. Like if you breed them together, you don't get visual albinos unless they were both het for that. So there's like the JPBs. I don't know if you've ever heard of those.
I'll be back.
Or neons. Yeah, and those are so there's all kinds of different combinations and stuff you can do with that. But it's interesting because you get a lot of new people and they'll be like, oh, if I breed this to this, will I get this? And it's like, no, that doesn't even make sense. So there's a lot going on to the point where like I feel like their morphs and stuff are kind of getting comparable to like some of the other,
for sure. Like there's workable projects.
Right. There's so much you can shoot for.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I think that makes it appealing to like a ball python, somebody that came in ball pythons. I think that makes it more appealing to me because there's like something to do, unless you are looking for something that's like brand new that you want to be the first to make something new of that thing. And so, but for just like the everyday breeder, the Kenyans are really attractive because
they're really attractive.
Have so many options already of what you can make.
Oh, so many. And there's so many people right now behind the scenes working on like new combinations of those genes too, putting them together to see what they'll produce. And
right. Like you still haven't put all of them together. So we don't know what they do yet.
There's many genes that have not been like really proven to like show what they're going to look like when they're put together. So that's all stuff that's kind of like really exciting. I feel like.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I love that kind of stuff like that.
Yeah.
I need that intellectual path. To keep me like not burnt out. Like if you're just breeding and you're producing what everybody knows you're going to produce and you have no idea, like you know exactly what's going to look like, that has no appeal to me. Obviously for monetary reasons, sometimes that's good, but also like you have to remember not to burn yourself out and be excited about what you're doing.
My problem is like I want one of every kind, like because there's so many. I'm like, oh my god, I have to have that too, like a Gene X albino, and then a paint this, and like
gotta catch them all.
Yeah, it's very overwhelming because you're like, what do I actually want to focus on?
You're like, but I don't know. I want them all.
Yeah, I want one of each. Yeah.
So from the audience, how do you set up a naturalistic for a Kenyan sand boa? Or do you recommend a naturalistic for them?
I have gotten into arguments about this with people before. I don't recommend it for Kenyans. People have done it before successfully and had a great time. Many of them just wreck the enclosure though, because they burrow and they dig up all the roots. And so you have plants that are just getting destroyed. So like it's hard to maintain with a burrowing snake like that. And then feeding becomes an issue because if they disappear into their naturalistic bioactive setup and you can't find them,
you don't know.
Can't find them, and you don't want to dig up the whole thing to find them, or if they're having a health problem and you can't assess it because you can't see them.
And you also don't want to just like toss in a live rodent and
hope
for the best.
Hope they find it. Yeah, especially males. Like male Kenyan sand boas go off of feed for a long time most years. Like once they hit maturity, they are more interested in breeding than eating, and so many male Kenyan sand boas will hold out for live. And that just becomes, it just becomes a problem in itself if you can't even find the snake to feed it. And they go for they can go for 6, 7, 8 months without eating at a time. So you don't want to just throw a mouse in there for 2 days and it doesn't eat it. And then there's a lot to it. People have done it successfully. It's just not my preference. I don't encourage it.
If you want to constantly be replanting and constantly be digging up your enclosure, then sure.
Yeah.
Jessica, you had a similar issue with your hognose, right?
Yeah, almost exactly the same.
Yeah.
Like it's too disturbing to them to disturb them so much that you have to present the frozen thaw to them. And then they're like, you bitch. How dare you?
Yeah, it's very much like that. Yeah, for sure.
They do love it, right?
Yeah,
they love
absolutely.
it. They're having the time of their life, but it's almost a husbandry nightmare.
So my suggestion for somebody wanting to do more naturalistic is to do things like I will collect oak leaves and bake them and do like a layer of oak leaves in their cage, and they will crawl through that and sniff it, and it's very enriching and very interesting. And I'll do like different wood items and I'll bake them and present them. And so you can do things like that, because I know a lot of people are worried about like enrichment and keeping them interested and active. And there are definitely ways to do that you're not, trying to keep a bioactive.
So if they're a burrowing species and you wanted a more naturalistic enclosure, could you do something like plants on the background that aren't planted in the substrate?
Yeah.
And then they wouldn't disturb that because they're not really climbing the wall.
They will climb the wall.
They will climb the wall. Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Like, could you do like air plants up there, or like a viney thing?
Yeah, people underestimate sand boas just because they're called sand boas and they are a burrowing species. They do spend a lot of time on the surface and doing a lot of climbing and everything. I have heard so many escape stories because people underestimate them. They're like, oh, it's just going to stay burrowed, and then they go right up and out because that's just what they do.
Thanks for taking the lid off.
Yeah. I know, right? And then they take a stroll around your house, and like sand boas, you basically never find them again when they escape. If you don't find them in the first hour or so, they're gone because they just go downward. They'll go into your vents under your house and stuff. Mm-hmm. Where so many other snake species will just like go up and hide in a cord or something. These guys are looking to go down.
Like, I lose a ball python and I'm like, it's fine, she'll show up.
Yeah. So yeah, if you're gonna try doing bioactive, like, good luck. I don't know.
So you're recommending more like hardscape rather than like plants and and things.
Hardscape, give them stuff to climb, give them branches and stuff. They will utilize it. You'll find them hanging up on there. If you give them a basking area, they'll do that too. So they can be very cool and very active.
That's one of my favorite things about garter snakes is that they're so food motivated. Yeah. That they learn that you're the food person. And so you open up their enclosure and they literally come to the glass level and they're just like waiting, like, give me the food. And it doesn't matter if we're completely under and behind the the back panel, they will come out the minute they smell that, and they want to be your best friend.
I do have some sand boas like that too.
Oh, that's cool. So they might do better in that kind of a situation than one that's like a harder one to feed.
Right. Like Indian sand boas are extraordinarily food motivated. Those guys, as soon as I start thawing anything, they're at the front of their cages and tubs and stuff. Like, oh my God, it's my time. You know.
So if you're wanting a sand boa in a more naturalistic enclosure, that would be more. The Indian one would be better.
Indian would be great. Absolutely, because they are gonna come up for food. So
yeah, you have to have the ones that are like, I've got to eat. You know, the ones that are just like, it's fine. I'll just stay here for a year.
Right. It can be really frustrating when the Kenyans go off of food like that. So
mostly a boy thing, though. Not
okay. What's a species that you don't have, whether it's available or not, that you would just absolutely that you would stuff in a Pringles can if you could and bring home?
Well, I someday I would love to have. Yeah, allegedly. I would love to have Amazon basin tree boas at some point, just because they are like the holy grail of emeralds. Maybe someday I'll have a pair or something. I don't know, but like that's something I definitely reach for. And then I do really want to have Savu pythons someday. I really have it in my head that like I need a pair.
It's funny, like silvers are like Russian silver-sided sand boas, but like the different head. But it's like the same idea.
It's like very similar. Yeah. But I really do like someday. That's a someday item for me. So
now
the fucking normal bale is like $1,500 or whatever stupid right now.
What is the species that they bring in a lot of captive bred, or not captive bred, wild caught, that are like diseased and gonna die? But the other, is it the emerald tree boas or the basins that people try to get the wild caught ones because the captive ones are so expensive?
Yeah. So northern emerald tree boas are imported by the thousands, and they are, I know I'm going to get flack for this later, but 99% of them die.
That's what I've heard. Yeah, like people think, I'm going to save so much money, but they are like the fatality rate is like all of them.
It's so high. So even when I was establishing my collection to get into captive breeding, I took losses. I had like about a 50% loss rate on my initial, and the investment is expensive still because they're not cheap animals, and you're looking for higher quality ones. And so places like the resellers and stuff will gouge on prices, even if it's fresh off the boat. It's never eaten for them. They will just pack it up in a box and send it to you, and you get what you get. And so many of them come with like crypto. They come half starving. They come with liver failure already happening. They come with like kidney damage. They're so dehydrated that their bodies are already like dead. Like they're not savable. And the problem is that you basically don't know what you have until you get it eating. And essentially, if you get an emerald tree boa and it regurges, just euthanize it.
Just euthanize it
because it becomes because it's probably crypto. Most of the time it's crypto. And if it's not, they can still get chronic regurg syndrome anyway, and they are so prone to it as wild caught animals that it just becomes habitual, and they just slowly starve to death essentially because they can't even keep it down. So it makes me cringe so hard seeing them on expo tables and stuff. $300 northern emerald tree boas, and they're skinny and dehydrated looking like saggy sacks of crap. It's infuriating, to be honest. And there's so many people see them as like, this is the cool snake to have, I'll have this tree boa and it's badass and everything. So they set it up in a completely improper setup, and then it crashes and dies, or it look at those people on Facebook or whatever. Where did they go? They disappeared because their emerald died. Like those people aren't successful for a reason because they have inappropriate enclosures. That's one of my hot topics. That's one of my
I can tell. Yeah.
Yeah. It's infuriating. Like I went to Tinley this last March. Was it March? And I saw this guy had emerald tree boas in these itty bitty little boxes, and they're full grown, like 5-foot boas, big around, and they're trapped in these. I mean, I was just like flabbergasted. It was disgusting. And it's just they're treated like garbage again. They're treated like trash snakes because they import so many thousands. And the turnaround is amazing for them. You know, if they buy it for $50 off a wholesale list, they can flip it for $300, $500, and some idiot's gonna buy it. So it just continues, and it continues all the time. Like, it's a really disgusting practice that I wish would go away.
Yeah, I remember when I was looking into them that I was warned correctly. Like, do not support the wild caught turnover that's happening because A, it'll die, and B, we need to not support their industry at all.
Yes. Every person that buys one off an expo table, it just gets replaced with another one. Like, I've watched them pull them from under the table and put another one in that spot, you know, so it's not like you're saving that animal. You're just making a hole for another one to be in, which is, it's a sucky thing to have to like think about and accept, but that's just the reality.
So what if you were looking for something like really unique?
Yeah.
Is there even like a possibility that you could get a wild caught and have it successfully?
Yeah, for sure. My thing,
because like there is a room for wild caught in hobbies, and so but there's a purpose for them, not just cheaper, faster, higher, lots of money. But like if you were looking for something special, that is a situation that you could possibly come out positive.
Yes, I've had that happen as well, where I've been like, crap, I need that animal for its genes. That's amazing looking. And so I will take a gamble on it. And when you take a gamble on those animals,
you have to be prepared to lose all that money.
You lose all that money. It's just gone. You're basically just saying like, this is money I can afford to throw in the garbage.
I'm gonna burn it.
Right. Yeah. Because you don't know.
Right.
But when I get fresh emeralds in, the very first thing is hydration is so important. You have to spend basically like a month rehydrating them. So you're doing warm showers, you're making sure they have water dishes like right in their face. And the water has to be changed every night or they won't drink it. Stale water that's sitting for more than 24 hours, they will turn their nose up. So like all of my emerald tree boas, I change their water dishes probably every 2 days is what I'm actually doing. But they just, I won't, you know, that's gross, you know? And so you get these dehydration issues, especially with these freshly wild caught animals where they just crash. And then you're putting food into their system if they'll even eat. And that just it's chaos. It just takes them down.
So do you wait a month to try to feed them until they are properly hydrated?
Yeah.
Because
I wait a month.
Snake eating can kill them, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
I like the comment that just came in. I just got here, but I agree with what's being said. Thank you.
But that's Lisa. She's our buddy.
That's awesome.
She breeds like white lips.
Yeah.
So they have their own like import problems too. Where like we do need some imports, but we don't do a very good job.
Yes.
Importing them.
The problem with Morph Market, if you opened it up right now, I'd be like, dead animal, dead animal, dead animal, dead animal. But I can tell you, right, just looking at the ad, like that one will be dead. That one will be dead. That's already dead on the perch. Like it's disgusting. I've had fights, not fights, but I've gotten into it with Morph Market before about the imported versus wild caught classifications and how they squeak by calling them this or that. And
do you like Darian's new designation where he's naming them differently now?
I don't know.
Okay.
We'll see.
We'll see how it goes.
The jury's still out.
He's like someone took like a t-shirt cannon and just boom boom at the hobby.
That's awesome. He is a t-shirt cannon.
Totally runs it perfectly.
Yes, and he just whatever like it hits you or you know or hits the website.
He's like Oprah with a cannon. You get a shirt and you get a shirt.
Yeah. You get representative photo and you get like it's just like some of the things he's done is amazing. Some of it I don't like it, but it's all like you know what? It's not my website.
Exactly.
So,
yeah, that's how I feel about it too.
I agree with some of the stuff he's doing. I don't agree with some of the maybe whatever. It is what it is. It's a whole bag of yeah.
Gerald.
So he has made. So we've had conversations in private as well, actually, and he's basically made the promise to me that he's going to start taking that stuff seriously. So I think
he's trying to take it seriously. I think he just
doesn't
know
quite
how to
execute.
Because we have the new like heart bullshit and the new labeling that's happening now.
You know what's interesting about that though? I poo-pooed on the heart thing, but I have caught myself just casually like hearting stuff.
I know. I've been hearting stuff too.
Yeah. So it's like
oh my god, I love it. So
yeah,
it's fine. It works. Yeah.
Right. But it is interesting. And it does I wish it was like 50% smaller. I feel like it does take up quite a bit of like the visual space on it.
Well, since we're talking about it, let's talk about it. Now it's representative photo, wild caught.
Yeah.
So then you have no idea literally what you're getting because it's not the actual snake.
Right. But there are still so many of these. And this is where I've gotten into heated discussions with the staff of Morph Market over being labeled imported when actually what they mean is wild caught, but they can sneak around. So they're actually in the process right now of changing the terms on their site to specify what those things are because I brought it up to them. So that's interesting. We'll see how that goes. But I spent like 3 days reporting ads. I just went through and I was like, this means wild caught. This should be wild
established.
Caught. Yeah.
No label.
Right. So it's
hard and people suck. So
even if you look at the ad that people suck, and you don't immediately think the snake is already dead, because the condition that you get it in after the picture was taken, it could still be dead. Is what I'm understanding. So if it's crappy on the photo, definitely don't buy it. But even if it's a good photo, you're still taking a chance.
You're still taking a chance.
Okay.
Especially with emerald tree boas, I would say anybody who's just looking to dip their toes in, go onto Facebook, join the emerald tree boa communities, and look for the people that have babies. Because most people that are breeding like northern tree boas are going to sell their babies for like anywhere from $800 to $1,500. It just depends on the color, like how much white is on the animal and things like that. But like for a captive born and bred baby, they are bulletproof.
It's not going to roll on you tomorrow.
Right. The captive bred and born emeralds are so amazing and they do so much better. You basically, it's like buying a baby boa constrictor or whatever. I mean, it's just like it's just a world of difference. You're taking all the parasites out of the equation and any of the potential liver damage and everything, the internal damage from the importing process.
Curious is I see imported MM and I just assume it's wild caught, which isn't really true because sometimes it can be imported from Europe and be just a different bloodline. You actually might want that thing.
But when you see that, they will say explicitly in their ad that this is imported from blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. So he needs another label that's like imported from just outside of the U.S.
Right.
But CBB or whatever.
I think he was talking about doing like imported captive born or something like that. So you could distinguish between that very easily. But like I reported an ad yesterday where it said imported, and then right in the advertisement it says this is a wild caught animal, blah, 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 blah. And it's like they're just
avoiding it.
Yeah, they're just going around it, which is the same thing everybody's been saying in the groups anyway, that they will just go around the tag and use imported instead.
Like I'm desperate for imported Dion's rat snakes, obviously.
Yeah.
Right? You know? Yeah. So like please tag them away.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm ready.
Are you familiar with BSR auctions?
Unfortunately, I know that they exist.
Okay. Yeah, because they get imported Dion's sometimes.
Well, here's what I want. I want a normal person to go to Europe, collect like a bunch of pairs of the weird stuff, like crazings and melanistics and whatever. Come here and then sell the pairs, not BSR.
You mean collect like wild caught?
No, from like keepers. Captive. Just buy pairs from keepers.
Well, you use the word collect, so I wanted to clarify.
we have them in captivity for $20 in Germany. Like they don't care about them there. I care about them here.
It's interesting.
And it's always like BSR or fucking Satu, the like other.
Don't even get me started on Satu. They will boldface lie to you about sources on like I've had some issues with them before. Yeah, they're one of the worst. They really
don't
are.
Get sued, girlfriend. But say your piece. But I don't want to buy from them because I don't know what their quarantine protocol is. I want like a normal importer person with a CITES permit, like Ivory. I watch her stuff all the time. She has small enough lots that I trust her to do it, but she doesn't necessarily like want to focus on the dumb shit I want. So I want somebody to be like, let's.
Yeah.
Why can't you like message her and ask her to get you that lot or whatever?
If you get connected with a breeder, you can do that. I actually am setting up an import myself for some Asclepian snakes. So
yeah, I got my melanistic Russians from DDI from. Oh my god, their names Supreme Snakes, in Italy. What is their name? Jana, help me.
You're on your own.
Okay, so I have done it.
but I don't speak German. I'm
Yeah.
not in the know. I don't go to Ham and walk the table. So some awesome enterprising Netherlands person, I don't know, needs to go to Ham, pick up the rare weird shit that we need. I'll keep it here, and then we'll split the profits.
Yeah. When we get a second, can we go back to one of the questions I saw?
Yeah. Yes, please.
Somebody was asking
This
about.
This
Lisa
one?
said, yeah. The idea that the high prices breeder charge for their babies plays a part in pushing people to wild caught. And like, I definitely see what you're saying. So let's go back to emeralds, like for just as an example, breeding emerald tree boas is so hard. Because first off, like I said earlier, when you're buying and setting up your group, you are basically losing half of your investment right off the bat, just on animals that will not make it. You have to quarantine them for about a year to be taken seriously in any of the captive breeding groups. Getting compatible ones is really difficult. I have ones that show no interest in each other, will not breed with each other. The breeding process is hard because they will fake you out. Getting them to be compatible, getting them interested in each other, the whole process is difficult. This is my first year with a gravid female since I've been working, and I've been working with emerald tree boas since 2002 or something. And I kept them for a while. I got out of them for a long time because I had kids and stuff, and then I got back into them. This is the first time I've ever successfully gotten them to get their shit together. So it is harder, and I will say that like some of the pricing is crazy. Like the Amazon basins, I think that's a joke. I think when I look at those $30,000 ads, it's like, are you really, like, it's the same thing like high-end ball pythons are just going to other breeders. It's just, that's what it is. And so the hobby breeders or the people that just want one in their cage are gonna, they are forced to go to the cheaper route. But I will say that like, you're not gonna see captive bred and born baby emeralds on Morph Market. Those are always going to be, you have to go to the Facebook groups and ask those people that are breeding them because they get snatched up so fast.
I was going to say, there's a list
somewhere
there's a list. And a waiting, a line.
Yeah, like I have a wait list for mine, and like I've never produced them. So it's a very interesting thing. The Northerns, I think, is very reasonable, like an 800 to like 1500 range when I can go on Underground or Morph Market or whatever, and you see ones already priced at $4,000 to $1,000 for whatever. So it's very, the overlap is very reasonable, but there are some species that I'm like you're right, it doesn't make sense, the price difference.
And we do want to pay people what they're worth for their effort, but like, is there a point where we're speculating on it instead of paying them for their labor? I don't know the right answer to that, because like snake money is fake money, so it's all like,
it is. And like your investment, I will say one thing I can say about it is like the investment that you put into emerald tree boas will pay back as long as you can get the breeding, because they're not like the next hot morph or something where it's going to lose fashion in the next year or something. Emerald tree boas are popular because so many people want them, and the demand way outweighs the
well, and even if they do go the wild caught, they're usually going to die, so they still want a captive bred.
Right. And then you've got that person go, well, and then that person gets sour too, because they're like, oh, I tried that and they died. So
that's very true too. Jessica, in the comments, are you seeing these people recommend people to you?
I'm on Fox Sciences Morph Market. I don't see any diamonds, red snakes. So
maybe you can
I'll have to watch for
message
later
them and let them know you need them.
I just think
like to DM people.
I don't harass nobody, never, nowhere.
Me neither.
You harass me, I don't harass you.
I'm a harasser.
Sometimes that's really good stuff.
I just think like Diones and Bimax and like the easy, bulletproof little colubrids, the European stuff, maybe 4 lines. They just get big. I think that might be like the next colubrid thing. It's just easy, fat. The problem is they're brown. It's not their fault.
No, but I'm importing a group of melanocytic
brown
and albinos.
Okay, thank God.
So
that'll save them right there. They're just like, a brown snake is always going to struggle in a pet viewer's mind.
Well, it's
like,
interesting because as they grow up, they get very black. Most of their body turns mostly black. And then they'll have those like yellow cheeks and stuff. Not as much, but like the black is really striking, I feel like. So,
How many do you have currently?
Yeah, I have Asclepians, yeah.
Well, how many?
I just have 2 at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah, I just have 2, but I'm importing like 30, so we'll see.
Jessica's like, add to the box for
I
me.
know. Yeah, please. How many are you? So you're going to sell some of them after they QT or whatever? I'm assuming you're not going to jump up to 30.
No. Yeah, I'm planning on keeping some albinos and some melanistics for myself to have a breeding group, but then I'm going to, like a buddy of mine are going in on it together. And so we're going to divvy up the animals and, we'll see we'll see what happens. I have a list of people that are interested in those as well. So
okay, cool. That'll be fun. Yeah, they're cool too.
They're very cool.
You always need to have a viable pet market. Otherwise, I don't even know if it's ethical to breed them, period, if you can't convince people to want them.
Right.
At a pet level, not just like a boutique level. Because then you have to breed once every 3 years or something. Because that's the real like boutique market. But you need pets to want them, pet people to want them too.
Absolutely.
It's tough. Life's tough.
It is tough. Livestock is
all
hard.
right. We've done this for 2 hours and 10 minutes.
You did it.
And you did it.
You made it through your first interview
the whole way. What's his name? Cookie?
Cookie, yeah.
Yeah, Cookie did it
so
too.
beautiful.
Congratulations, Cookie.
He's captive born and bred as well. He's not wild caught. So
his side, the granity. Oh,
yeah, he's just absolutely stunning. I love him.
So beautiful.
He's very chill. He's very cool. He's also my best breeder. He will breed with whatever you put him with. So
good job, buddy.
Yeah, he's a good boy. Yes, hooray.
Yeah, I'm sure everyone will be buying Samboas and Candoia and Peruvian calico snakes and all after this, hopefully, from you.
Buy my Woma pythons.
Buy Womas.
Oh, do we get to see your Womas?
They're not hatching yet.
Oh, okay. Wait, what's next to you that was hatching?
Oh, those were the eggs from my Saharans.
Oh, okay. They're already out, though.
Yeah. My Womas are supposed to hatch today, so they should be pipping hopefully today. But we'll see. I could be off. But Woma pythons are another interesting, hard to breed snake that I don't know why I like them. I just do. So
because they're colubrids in a python.
In a python
body. Or a python soul in a colubrid body. I don't know, something like that.
Something like that. Yeah, they're very weird. They're very unlike many other pythons. They act way more like a corn snake or something. So
yeah, that body plan, they're like, or like a bull snake or something.
A lot of people that have multiple species say, like, you got to have a pair of these. Like, you just gotta.
Yeah. They're amazing animals. There's a lot. It's not to drag it on or whatever, but like, there are so few people, like comparatively to the people breeding corn snakes or ball pythons, for example, the people seriously breeding Woma pythons in the U.S. is relatively small. So there's a lot of inbred lines. There's a lot of that kind of stuff, but there's a lot of people just throwing together literally whatever they could get their hands on. So there are many low quality lines being bred out there right now. And there are ones that people are producing. This is like a thorn in my side, pairing and producing ones that are mean because they're pairing together the crazy bitey psycho ones that give them the bad name, right?
Yeah.
You will hear people saying like, oh, Womas are nasty. And it's like, no, you had a bad instance or, but if you're breeding ones together that have
a bad line,
temperaments, basically. You're going to have a better line. You're going to have a more tolerant baby. Like my last clutch last season, every single one of them was super docile, super placid. Like my breeder male, I can go in there and grab his face like while he's eating. Like
that's pretty good,
right? Yeah, like I wouldn't.
I can't even grab my husband's face while he's eating.
Oh yeah, yeah. The same for me. You can't. Don't get near me when I'm eating. No, like
finger.
There's a lot to that where they get a bad name and a bad reputation as being like assholes and stuff, and that's just not the case.
It's just poor breeding habits.
Poor breeding, poor lines, or inbred lines.
And you have Taras, so we'll have to.
I actually don't. I don't have them right now.
What the?
My friend Chris.
Psych.
My friend Chris. Yeah, I know. Psych. Chris has them at the moment.
Oh,
so.
Copperhead.
Yeah. So Anyway.
All right. We'll just have you come back on, and we'll talk about the wheeling and dealing,
the weird
the European imports, and whatever crazy stuff that as your season progresses or something. This has been fun. You have been a wealth of good information. I hope everyone's excited to buy whatever and not buy it off the importer
And I
table.
really hope that I don't get angry messages from people later telling me
If
I'm
they
lying.
do, send them my way,
Or my way.
And we'll have to check themselves at the door because
Yes,
right.
please.
No rude messages.
I'm so tired of it. I've been getting so much of it lately.
I'm the Khaleesi
Yeah.
and she's my hoe. Jana is.
Nice.
So respect.
Thank you for
Respect.
talking to me and reaching
No,
out.
thank you. You did great.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Bye. We're leaving.
Bye.
It takes
It
like
takes
10 hours.